It's Tuesday. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Taco Tuesday. Let me swap over to our cam here. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Taco Tuesday. I actually forgot to grab water. That's a little embarrassing. I don't have any water prepared for today's session. That's something I failed to do. I mean, I've heard other variations of that joke. Um, but okay, I'm actually gonna have to grab water really fast because I am already thirsty, and I can see my water glass that I prepared for the stream right there. So I'm gonna go grab it really quick. Give me 1 second, stream, and we'll begin this stream. All right, 1 second.
You drive me crazy out my mind. How'd you do this every time? Now I'm lost without you. Used to be the one I talk to when I'm sad. Can't you see now tainted love is all we have?
All right, we're back. I apologize for that, but we're back. And so today is Tuesday, so we're having a Taco Tuesday. And if you're new to the channel and don't know what that means, is today's it's different from Science Friday. I think I've been doing more Science Fridays than anything in my YouTube channel. I know lately on the YouTube channel the videos have been uploaded have been Science Fridays. It just happens to be aligning that way for many different reasons. But so Taco Tuesdays is where we just sit here and chat about anything. It doesn't have to be necessarily scientific related or anything based on some experiment or something like that. We're just chatting about our lives, basically. Just we're trying to have an open space, free space to chat about anything, really. That's why it's called Let's Talk About It Tuesdays. We'll just talk about some things. A lot of the times, it does evolve into the conversations evolve into scientific areas. Many of the times, it does. That's just the nature of this channel and of who I am. I do like to base a lot of what I say, or at least try to base a lot of what I say when it comes to anything presented as factual, even though I don't like to really use the word fact, but presented as kind of evidential. I like to base that on science, so that's where science will be involved in the chats here. But yeah, today, Tuesday, is that space where we're not really getting into too much scientific theory. We're just having a conversation where we can talk about it. And today's topic, we'll be talking about perseverance. And it's a little bit different from other topics that we've talked about on Taco Tuesdays and Science Fridays. A lot of those topics are inspired by kind of scientific themes, or scientific areas, or theories or methodologies, stuff like that. Or it's very science heavy. But today's topic, we're going to talk a little bit more anecdotal. And if you're unfamiliar with the term anecdotal, this is kind of, at least in our scientific community, when we say anecdotal evidence, it's just like your lived experience. Because even in science, your lived experience isn't completely invalid as data, even though we know that the data is going to be biased and whatever. Your lived experience still represents a data sample of one. And so we can't generalize using your lived experience or using your anecdotal data. So if you've ever caught yourself or caught other people when you're in debates or conversations, and they go, "Oh, or like I'm this way, so therefore like other people must be this way," or "I know people that are like this," so and then they generalize to a whole group. That's anecdotal evidence that we're saying, and so that's not valid within the scientific realm of being able to establish a causal relationship between things and generalize it to a population. But it is still, nonetheless, evidence of some sort, so it's not completely disregarded. So today, and mostly Taco Tuesdays, that's kind of what I'm trying to do with Taco Tuesdays, is have this space where we can all pitch in. That's another reason why it's not so science heavy, because what I've been seeing in my channel, and it wasn't the original intention when I created this channel, it was really intended to be a little bit different. I'm not going to go into the intricacies of that, but it was intended to be very conversational style. And well, one, I noticed that I still don't have text to speech or speech to text or whatever. I do have the Discord if people do want to jump on a call with me, but I just noticed that actually people like to listen. I've gotten that feedback several times now that like they just like listening, and so Science Fridays are very jargony sometimes, and I understand why. Those days might be more appropriate, if that's the better term, or if that's the best term there. I don't know what the term I'm looking for here is. It's more maybe appropriate on Science Fridays. People aren't really talking because we're going too jargony. But that's what Tuesdays are for. It's supposed to be, that we can all talk about it, even if you don't know the science behind it. We're not really chatting science so much on Taco Tuesdays. We're chatting just our lived experiences, our anecdotal evidence, as we would say it in science, in research, right? This is anecdotal evidence. And so today's topic, we're talking about perseverance. I'm going to talk about it if no one has anything to chime in or any questions or anything they want to chat about aside from perseverance, because again, I'm always open to chatting about anything on this channel. If you're a recurring or if you're a recurring listener here and you have questions from previous streams, go ahead and post them. Like we can talk about um, previous topics. I'm always happy to talk about previous topics. And also, I forgot to mention, welcome SPS. Happy Tuesday. Happy Taco Tuesday. Thanks for joining me today. And welcome everyone else. I know I said welcome at the beginning, but welcome everyone else if you're just joining us. Welcome to Taco Tuesday. We're just starting with this perseverance topic. And so, I mainly just at first I'm going to begin as I usually begin in my streams, especially Science Fridays. I have this screen share mode here on my or this layout that I've made. That way I can share my screen and show people what I'm Googling, what I'm reading. That way everyone can see what I'm doing and also do it on their own computers. Just to show, that what I'm saying here is based on things that you can read out there. This isn't biased information, and we can be cross-checking, cross-referencing, meaning I can check multiple independent sources, and if they're saying them, if they're all kind of agreeing, then I can have more trust in those sources. So one thing I like to start with, though, when we begin any conversation, is we need to have a neutral ground, a ground on which we can all agree or all understand, and then build from there. That's something I like to do in this channel. Is we start from a definition, or we start from some basic building block of whatever topic we're talking about, and then we're going to build on it. And so today's topic is perseverance. So I have this Google page ready for us. I know there's a a car-sized rover named Perseverance, and that's like one of the first things that comes up. But we're more focused on the definition of perseverance. I'm going to zoom in here. So for the definition of perseverance, perseverance in English means persistence in doing something despite, I like the second part of it, despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. So let's break that down, get it to its basic building blocks, and then let's begin our conversation. And we can all chime in with this conversation in our heads, with this definition in our heads. We can all begin to have a conversation. That way we can all come at this from a ground that we all understand what we mean by perseverance. And so persistence in doing something. Okay, that I think is usually the common thing that people might think of when they hear the word perseverance. They might think, oh, it's persistence, it's determination, right? But I like the second part of it, and I think it's actually the more important part of the definition here. Despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. And so the moment so this is that I want to focus on that part because there's a lot that I've learned through my life, and I'm not saying like I'm old and all wise and stuff, but I've already encountered a lot of hardships. I'm sure all of you have encountered hardships in your own way, in your own manner. And I'm just going to speak about some of the ones I've encountered, especially academically, because I just want to also, this channel is also intended to be kind of at that level as well. I'm trying to promote science and education in a good light. I'm trying to talk about it in a good light. And when I say education, I don't just mean universities or colleges. I mean learning in any way, shape, or form is always a huge plus because I truly believe knowledge is power. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about my academic difficulties that I've had to face and where perseverance really kicked in. And I also want to just chat about perseverance kind of in a general form. And I'm going to start with the general form first because there's a saying that I think, for me, comes to mind when I think about perseverance. And that saying goes, the beginner has failed. Or no, sorry, the master has failed. Wow, I already have it way inverse there. The master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. And I think I've said that before on this channel, like way before anything like that. But that's something that I've really come to learn and appreciate, especially after getting a degree called a master's degree. And if you've ever achieved something where it takes just years and years and years of training and practicing something and doing something or putting effort into something, putting energy, and there's no immediate reward, then you can begin. You can probably, I don't want to say begin, you can probably relate to today's topic of perseverance because that's what it requires, right? If your success, if your reward doesn't come for a really long time, then you're probably going to need some perseverance. Let me take a sip of water there. So that saying is very cool because we see these characters, these icons in movies and shows of these masters. And it's really interesting what I've also seen in movies, this trend that or I guess they also ran out of ideas, or I guess they wanted to squeeze more money out of a certain franchise. And so they did like origin stories, which is kind of cool because then we actually get to see the hardships that the master in the original movie. So let's just take Yoda, for example, right? If they made or they haven't made one about Yoda, I don't believe. But if they made one, right, we might see all the hardships. And so this is something that I think is difficult to be around when you're someone that's around, like if you're trying to work on your goals and you have like an instructor, a tutor, a mentor, something like that. Sometimes it can be hard to be around them because they have already gone, like they have all this knowledge and you didn't get to see how long it took them and their failures to get there. So you might when you encounter failure, you might encounter it as like, well, I can't do it, these people can because they're special, but I can't because like I'm facing difficulty and they aren't because they're already successful, and when they do it now they aren't facing difficulty. But what you didn't get to see is all the difficulty that it took for them to get where they are. And so reminding ourselves of that saying, the master has failed more times than the beginner has tried, well, that's what makes the master so confident, is because they went through so much failure, they actually have understood what not to do. And that's such an important facet of kind of when you're coming to mastery of a topic. Now, today we're not going to talk about what mastery means over a topic. I think that'd be an interesting topic to chat about. In a different Taco Tuesday, we can talk about learning, and we could even do a Science Friday on learning, like how the brain learns, how people learn, and mastery, right? But so today's topic is perseverance. So basically, perseverance is kind of that mechanism or the vehicle by which we can get to mastery, right? We all begin. We all have to begin somewhere. Now, some of us we might well, most likely, you're going to be starting people are going to be at different starting points in life. Of course they will be. And this is going to be dependent, right, on where you're born, your socioeconomic status of what family you're born into, and a lot of other factors, of course. But nonetheless, you're not born with knowledge. You have to learn at some point. You have to pick it up at some point. You're born with some intrinsic kind of knowledge, if you will. I don't know if I would call it knowledge, but like reflexes, I guess, like survival instincts, and other senses, right? You're born with those. But like cultural knowledge and more advanced knowledge is gained through your environment. And so, of course, we all have to be a beginner for things at some point in our lives. We all were, right? Einstein was a beginner at physics at some point, and science. So was Newton. So was, if we think about famous scientists, they were all beginners at some point. They were not famous, right? They weren't born famous. They weren't born, like when Newton was born, Newton wasn't a known name, probably. I don't know. Maybe there's another famous Newton. I don't know the full history. But what I'm trying to say is, right, they probably encountered a lot of failure before they were able to achieve the success that they have. And I think a lot of biographies are coming out from celebrities and other important figures, and you can hear this. This is very much echoed throughout a lot of people's stories. And I think this can also be a very, might sound like a cliche topic, perseverance, but I think I just want to add another voice to that, to say, like, and I'll talk about my hardships that I went through to get to where I am at right now. And I'm not saying I'm at the peak of success. I'm still going through hardships, and I will still continue to go through hardships until I reach what I want, where I want to reach, right? If we, like a couple streams ago, I brought up Maslow's hierarchy of happiness, or of human satisfaction, if you will, and at the very top you have that self-actualization. Well, there's ideologies, there's goals that I want to reach in my life, so I'm not quite there yet, and so I still have an uphill battle here. But nonetheless, I can look back at when I was in middle school, high school, and everything that built up to where I am now. And I can talk about those hardships and say, if it wasn't for the perseverance, if I had quit at any of those moments, I don't know where I'd be now. I can't guarantee that I would be better or worse. I don't know that for sure, but that's what science has taught me, right? To without the evidence, I can't really guarantee things like that. But I can tell you that right now, I'm not regretting my decisions I've made. That's what I can tell you, and that's what I'm satisfied with that. Because at the end of the day, like, yeah, there's a million doors that could be open for me, but the main thing that I'm trying to focus on here is, like, if I'm happy, then why worry myself over a million other doors? But anyways, we're going way off topic. Let's get back to that perseverance. I'm gonna sneeze really fast. Does I have a fan on? Excuse me. Sorry about that. I have a fan on, and like I could feel like this dust particle that got blown into my nose and just tickled my nose just the right way. And so I apologize, but anyway. So, perseverance. So If you have anything you want to share, or maybe you want to list a goal or something that you've achieved, we can probably fathom, or at least I could fathom, some difficulties there, some hardships there. But um, let me think. I'm gonna give the stream like 30 seconds to catch, because I know there's the delay. There's always that delay, just to see if anyone wants to also say just hi, hello, before I begin some rhetoric here. So I want to talk. I'm going to talk a little bit about my college days and a little bit about that transition from college to graduate school. That's kind of the topic that I'm going to be discussing. If no one else wants to have a conversation about anything else, I'm happy to just keep podcast style streaming here, and I'll just keep chatting. And that's what I want to go over. Again, it's in the academic side of things. Obviously, and of course, I think we can all probably identify where we've had kind of academic struggles or professional struggles, but also personal life struggles. Right now, I'm going to focus on my academic ones, but I'm also happy to chat with anybody about personal life struggles, because today's Taco Tuesday. We can talk about anything. Let's talk about it. And so, something I want to mention that I really hope this doesn't sound arrogant, or this doesn't sound like I'm trying to boast or show off or anything, but I've gotten compliments before about several of the things I can do well, or the fact that I'm doing a PhD, that like people kind of what do you kind of I don't want to say stereotype, that sounds negative. This is like a positive thing I want to say. It's not necessarily I don't necessarily believe in it, but basically, based on what I've done with my life and the skills that I have and things like that, people have said like, oh, you're doing a PhD, you must be really smart and stuff like that. And so what I want to say is that's not necessarily the case. It's not because I'm a smart person I'm able to do the PhD. I would say it's more so because I just kept pursuing it. I just kept pushing. Of course, we all have different abilities with approaching certain topics and understanding certain topics, and doing certain things. Even we have different abilities in sports and physical things, mental things, blah, 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 blah. But something that I just want to just clarify as well, although I might have some genetic predispositions to be good and bad at certain things, part of the process here is also as we're living, as we're growing. So it's not just all explained or all attributed or all we can't all blame it all on genetics here. The environment has a lot to do with our behaviors as well, and I've definitely had Taco Tuesdays and Science Fridays talking about the environment and how it can shape us and how it can shape our behaviors and impact and influence our behaviors. Um, so, sorry, I need another drink of water. I have a fan, so it got really warm around me all of a sudden. And so now I have to have a fan, and it's just blowing straight in my face, and it's drying me up really fast. So even though no one's actually making me hydrate, which I see people in the chat that usually are making me hydrate, and I'm not seeing that hydrate button being slapped, but it's okay. It's okay. So what I'm trying to say here is, although people might have this facade. So on my facade, people might, not everyone, I'm not saying everyone comes up to me like, oh, you're smart, blah, blah, blah. Like, I've also got people that say I'm really stupid. I'm like, yeah, I have my moments that I'm not the brightest bulb there. I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. I think we all have our moments where you look back, you're like, oh, man, dang. And so all I'm trying to say is, that I didn't get here by chance, and I didn't get here by pure genetics. I got to where I'm at, and in a place in life where I'm pretty satisfied with what I'm doing so far. Again, I'm still early in life. There's still many decisions to make. There's still many hardships to face. Blah blah blah. But I didn't just get here by chance. I mean, there is some luck. There's elements of luck, of course, in life. But what I'm trying to say is, there are some hardships I had to face, and I didn't quit. And because I didn't quit, I was able to continue on the path that I'm currently on now. And this is what I'm just going to keep doing. I keep telling myself, like, yeah, there's points in my path that I haven't liked. There are things that I just don't like, or there are projects that I'm not passionate about. There are things, even in grad school, even till this day, that I can say, I'm not really a fan of this. And that's okay, right? And I might be slower on goals. I might actually fail at times, and as long as I just keep sticking to it, then I can just keep pushing. But the time, that's what it's That's what might be changing there, is how long it might take me to get my goals. So I'm going to talk a little bit about my college days a little bit, and then depending on the time and the chat, how it's, if anyone's wanting to chat here, I do want to just give a quick story of how I came into contact with the lab I'm working with right now. Actually, the lab that I got accepted into and everything like that. I just want to tell a quick story there because I think that can highlight kind of the perseverance aspect there as well. Um, but even in high school, actually, I've been one of those students that I've done poorly in classes before. Like I haven't been a straight A student my entire life. I'm not a straight A student now. I never have been. I've never been a straight A student. Like I've had quarters or semesters where I pulled straight A's. But that's probably, and I was actually just remembering today, it's usually in reaction to some failure. It's usually failure that made me go like, no, I think I can do this. Like I can demonstrate to myself and to others that I can do this. And then I would go and retake the course, or then I would go take other courses and really try my best, or really put in some more effort. But it was that kind of determination. What was I determined about? So ever since I was young, for some reason, and I kind of can guess where it comes from. But when I was young, I've always had this kind of, I guess I've had the role model. My father has a PhD, and a lot of my family members, like my uncles and aunts aunts and uncles, they all have an education to some degree. And so I always felt like, okay, and I was actually born into a family that put some pressure on us to be attending classes and getting educated. And so that was always kind of part of my life. And so since young, I was always like, okay, well, I know I need to be in class. I know I need to be doing this, even though I might not feel like it. And so that was part of one of my motivations as to why I needed to keep pushing. But I also just knew, like, especially in college is really where I started to kind of understand my goals and understand my motivations and passions. Because in high school, like, one of my only motivations, and I guess maybe we could talk about this in a different day, is even motivation as a topic. Because you could talk about like extrinsic versus intrinsic motivation, or external and internal motivations, right? In high school, I felt like I was very externally motivated, and by that I mean like the environment was putting pressure on me to do high school. I didn't really feel like doing certain classes, and again, I was young and naive. Like now having matured and grown and gone through what I've gone through, I can understand why I needed to go through some classes. Like this is knowledge that builds on itself. You just might be too young to really make all the connections, but your brain will eventually do it as long as you persevere, right? And so if I kept at it, and when I did, I kept at it. You know, my physics class in high school, that knowledge I gained from there, even though I can't really remember much nowadays, I know that knowledge is still there somewhere because it's built into a method of thinking that I was able to develop over time. And so through perseverance, like I wasn't the best physics student. Actually, in high school, I was an okay physics student. And then in college, I had some quarters where I was bad, some quarters where I was good. And I even had a quarter where a semester, because my undergrad institution, I had a semester where, was semester system. Right now I'm in a system where it's quarter system, so it's a little bit funky. If you're unfamiliar with what I'm talking about, in the American universities and universities in the U.S., some universities function on a quarter system, which means you have 3 academic quarters a year. Other universities function on a semester system, which means you only have 2 academic kind of semesters a year. And both these academic calendar styles have a summer vacation, or a summer time. I shouldn't say vacation because we still work during the summer. Or you might take classes during the summer. And so I even had a semester where I failed every single class, and I could have just dropped out of college, right? I could have dropped out of the university, and I wouldn't be here streaming. I mean, I might be streaming something else. I don't know. I can't guarantee that, like I said, but it would for sure probably not be the topics that I can talk about and the things that ignite me and the things that I'm passionate about, right? I'm really passionate about science, and I'm really passionate about the brain. I'm really passionate about education. Those are things that I figured out about myself throughout time, and it took perseverance to figure those things out, to come to those conclusions, to be able to to reach this level of kind of understanding or happiness, if you will. It took time and trial and error. Because the other thing I want to mention is I didn't go to undergrad school thinking I was going to go to graduate school. I was dead set on medical school. I'm not a medical student. So things change in life, and that's fine. We can change our mind. That's totally fine, right? there's going to be a lot, doors are going to close, other doors are going to open. Like, I can say a lot of cliches here, but like, I've lived one of those experiences, and that experience is, I was dead set on being this medical student. I went through some hardships, and it's not because I failed certain classes I swapped to one into grad school. It was ultimately actually when I moved to Germany for 2 years that allowed me kind of some space and some time to really think about what I wanted, what kind of ignited me when I would work. Because the other thing that time allowed me and perseverance allowed me to do in my undergraduate experience is not only go through all the failures that I did, both in classes, but I also, for example, would apply to work for internships, would apply to honor societies, would do things. I would get rejected all the time. I would get accepted sometimes, and I would get rejected other times. And that's something, and I think I've already mentioned this on the stream, that I love that my lab is doing. In my lab, we try to share our successes and failures. So my boss, my advisor, will tell us whenever he submits a paper, submits some sort of grant proposal, and by that I mean like grant proposals are basically this document that you propose an experiment, and you basically asking an entity or an agency or organization for funds to fund your research. And so he'll let us know when he submits it, and he'll also let us know when he gets them and when he doesn't get them, just so we can be aware that, not everyone around us is perfect. Actually, no one around us is perfect, right? So although we might be around, I'm in grad school and I'm around people that are super successful. Like, they're much older than I am, of course, but they're super successful. But even to this day, when you work with them, you can still see that some of their publications still get shot down, even though they might have big names. Like, they still face some failures from time to time. As time goes on and they become more and more masters of their field, right? Those failures get more and more minimized, but they still encounter them. That's what's really interesting, being around these professional, like these gurus of the field, right? I'm around some people that you can even consider they're the gurus. They're almost like the leaders of the field, and they'll still face some failures from time to time. And so, but what do? They just shrug it off and keep going. That's why they're the gurus, is because they kept going and they kept going at it for so long. That's something that I actually, this is a side note about perseverance, I guess. Another little thing that I like to say, maybe like if you have a hobby, um, like maybe you're not a musician but you kind of play guitar. That's something that I've persevered with, is my music. I'm not a musician by any means. I'm not trained. I'm not trying to be a famous musician, but I still play guitar, and I don't try to just because I'm not good and I can't play anything, I don't just quit. I'll just play my guitar at my own pace, and eventually over time, maybe when I'm 40 or 50, I'll be decently good or pretty good. And that's fine with me because I'm not trying to become a guitarist. Now, if I was trying to become a famous guitarist, of course, I should probably be more diligent and persevere in my goals and prioritize my goals there. But I'm not trying to be a famous guitarist or a famous musician. It's just something that helps me relax. But it's also fun and also motivational to see progress in what you're doing. And so just persevering, even though I might not see progress in a day or in a week, just knowing that I keep doing some, just playing around with my guitars or with my, I really recommend to people, if you're ever new to instruments and you want to play guitar, but you don't want to invest the money yet, you're not sure, get a ukulele. That was, I actually got to play ukuleles because of, I think you're here, a friend of mine who I met in grad school, I think he's in the chat here, uh, um, had a ukulele, and I just got into it now. It's such a cool learning tool. And so you just stick to the ukulele, even if you play it like once a week. But if you do that across years, of course that sounds like it's really slow progress, but who cares? Who's counting? You're like, we can always go back to Aesop's fable of the turtle and the hare, right? Who won the race? Was the turtle, the one who took it slow and steady. Like, if you just keep pushing it, eventually you're gonna be pretty decent. And if you really like it, then yeah, put in more hours every week and get good in like a month or a year, whatever. It's up to you. So what I'm trying to say is, or I guess back to my little story here in college, was yeah, I faced a lot of failures. I failed classes. I retook them and then tried to get an A. Sometimes I would take a class and still only be able to pull off a C. I was still able to kind of drive up my GPA. I was still to a decent place. I didn't graduate valedictorian or anything like that. But once I realized kind of what I was liking and actually the other turning point for me, I'll say this: the things that help with perseverance, because I think when we talk about perseverance, something we also maybe I've already tapped into a little bit is talking about kind of your motivation, right? What motivates you, and that's why I put that question in the chat. What motivates you to endure? And for me, that's why I brought up that little story, like, oh, ever since I was a kid, I was brought up this education. I've had this kind of core value of like, education's important. Doesn't matter. And right now, what I've come to see is it doesn't really matter where you get it, as long as you're getting it, right? And so that's what I see as important. As long as you're getting your knowledge, as long as your brain is growing in that sense, as long as your brain is making those connections and you're developing this rational method of thinking, this logical method of thinking that requires time and practice, it requires failure, it requires you doing your homework and failing your homework and not understanding and sitting there and persevering with just you can and when I talk perseverance, I'm talking both at the global level, like in the longitudinal level, where I'm talking like I persevered throughout my whole college, but also in your day-to-day tasks like homework, right? Or like your chores or whatever things that you might not like doing, right? We persevere through them, create habits out of them, and then things get actually easier. And that's why perseverance is nice, because things will actually get easier over time. It's just that startup that's really hard. And so when you do your first homework, and I can remember from organic chemistry, the first time saw organic chemistry problems, and I know I've said this on the channel before, and if you know me personally, I know you know this about me. Organic chemistry was my favorite class of all time, and that's like really shocking to a lot of people, especially when I say that in classes I teach. Now, I don't teach organic chemistry. I am not a chemist, and yet I took social psychology as an undergraduate. I took biology as an undergraduate. I took courses on the brain, and I can still say that my favorite class was organic chemistry, and I didn't get to learn about the things that I love and I study now. There's reasons why organic chemistry became my favorite class. And one of those is because that's where I really learned one of those classes that really drove home what it means, what determination can accomplish. That even though I would sit there doing organic chemistry problems, and this was actually a tip passed on from my older brother too, so I was quite lucky to hear that from him, where he's like, "Oh, you take OChem? Just do the problems. Just keep doing problems over and over again until you get it." Basically, I was like, "How is that possible? Like, I can't just sit there and learn from just doing." And I sat there and did it. Right now, you can't apply that methodology to absolutely everything, but I'm saying is persevere in whatever you're doing. And so I would sit there and I'd do the first problem, and I would not understand what I just did, and I wouldn't even get it right. Like, I would try, and I would just be like, "I have no idea what's going on. I have to go look at the answer." Then I would go attempt the next one, and the same thing, and I would get frustrated. Right. And this is where I can also say something from a personal experience is if you have friends who are also trying to achieve similar goals as you, it can be helpful, right? So I had friends in organic chemistry that we studied together, so we motivate each other, we push each other to stay later, right, in the library to understand things. So and the other thing is if one person understood it, they can then explain it to the other person. So your probability of understanding things quicker goes up, right? If everyone is trying, if everyone in your group or friend group or whoever you're studying with, if everyone's actually trying, right? I'm sure we've all been part of group projects where people didn't try and that slows you down. If everyone's genuinely interested in learning, then it can be a huge plus. And I recommend that if you're about to go to college or if you're in grad school, new in grad school, new in college, or you're in high school or any sort of academic environment or environment where you're working with others. You know, so I was fortunate to have friends that were also extremely motivated to get A's, and we actually started having fun. Like this is why OChem became one of my favorite classes. It was one of those first classes that I was pulling all-nighters for, and I was leaving the all-nighter having fun and be like, man, I'm gonna miss that. Like, how is that possible? Like studying for an exam and saying you're gonna miss it. It's because we were able to, yeah, we were doing our problems, but doing it with somebody else also helped kind of have jokes involved in there and relieve some stress. You know, we'd order pizza and have kind of like a pizza party while we did OChem problems. But the point was that we persevered in doing the problems. We did 50-page packets over the night, right? And these packets, each packet had like 20 problems on them. And each problem, if you're unfamiliar with OChem, it's not like it takes you like, it's not like a 2 plus 2 equals 4. Like you're doing each problem, it might take you 20 minutes, 30 minutes to do one problem, and you have 10 to 20 problems per page, and you have 50 pages. So those packets were beasts. And the professor knew that through repetition, that we would gain an understanding beyond, maybe even better than what the textbook offered, because he didn't give us a textbook. The professor of this organic chemistry course did not give us a textbook. We didn't have a textbook to learn OChem. And the interesting thing is that we inherently understood OChem, that when I went to go do lab, after doing his process and taking his class, now I went to lectures, of course. I would get the background knowledge from the lectures, but I would get the hands-on from the packets. Now, these packets weren't homework or anything. They were optional. But if you persevered, if you endured, if you did it, and you were determined to do it, you wanted your A in that class, you basically needed to do it. He basically said it that way. He's like, I'm just going to be upfront. If you do this packet, you'll get an A in the exam. You don't do this packet, you might not pass. And like, it was really interesting how that class worked. And but that packet was a beast. And so back to man, I went a long tangent, but back to just saying perseverance in your day-to-day things. When I'm doing that homework, right, I'm failing that first OChem problem, that second OChem problem. Well, you better start praying that there's a lot of problems, because the other problem I've encountered in some classes is that there just weren't enough practice problems. This is after I took OChem and kind of learned that, oh man, if I keep doing problems after problems, eventually I'll understand. And I found solace in that. I found kind of comfort in that, and I was able to reduce my stress when I studied and knew that I had a test upcoming. I'm like, I'll understand it because I'll have done thousands and thousands of things, right? I'll master it through repetition. Again, I'm not talking about absolutely everything in life can be learned this way. I'm just talking about it in the academic sense right now. A lot of materials in STEM, in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, if through repetition you're going to understand it. And the brain, parts of the brain work like this too, through repetition. Like long-term potentiation, right? That's a process by which cells communicate, and like this is especially in memory formation. Memory formation. When you keep activating the same neural pathways, those neural pathways begin to kind of get stronger, if you will. They'll get just like when you work out a muscle. If you keep working out certain cellular pathways, they get stronger. And so through repetition, you get better at something. Just like through repetition of me playing the drums, I'll get better. Through me doing any sport, I'll get better. I might not become the best, but within my personal level of where I'm at now into the future, of course I'll get better. And so maybe my organic chemistry professor understood that, and that's why he made a super packet, didn't have us read books. He just said, do this super packet and don't cheat. That was the other tenet here. Is if you cheat, of course you're not going to learn. Of course, there's an answer key. Of course I could just do the super packet, look at the answer key and fill it out, but who's going to win from that? Nobody. Well, I'm not going to, and I'm there to learn for myself, right? And so that's the other part of having that positive influence of other people, because if they're all cheating, the likelihood that you're going to feel like you need to do a genuine input is probably going to be less. I'm not saying you can't, like you have your own willpower too, but I'm just saying our environments do influence us. We might underestimate how much it influences us from time to time, actually. And so that's something that I just want to also just highlight. And if you're going through a class right now, you're going through things and you're alone, something that I can suggest is, seek out those people that are also going to be trying hard, or that are goal seeking, that are motivated to be successful. And you'll see that you will start feeling the same type of motivation. You can feed off their energy too. And that's what my friend and I would do. Actually, there's multiple. There's actually at the beginning, there'd be 4 to 5 of us. And by the end of the nights, there's only 2 of us left when we were doing the all-nighters. But we would feed off each other's energy, is what I'm saying. And that helped to just keep doing and keep enduring and keep being perseverance. And hello, Nusokara. I guess it didn't. The chat didn't say you're a new chatter, so welcome back. Good to see you. Thanks for coming to this Taco Tuesday. Welcome. I hope you're having a great Tuesday. And if you want to input any of your experiences, any comments, any opinions, maybe you disagree with something I said, maybe you agree with something I said, and you want to just echo it, feel free to put it in chat. I want to hear it. I'll let the chat kind of catch up there for a second. Yeah, training for a black belt, so I've been talking academic, but you can think about other goals. Like in the U.S., I know when I was growing up, when I was a kid, several of my friends were in the Boy Scouts, and achieving Eagle Scout was apparently hard. They had to do a lot, people had to do a lot. Karate, I remember when I was a kid, I was in karate, but I never understood what it really meant. I was too young, what it means to get a black belt. But now knowing someone personally that has achieved it, I understand the effort that it takes, and also having been through my own hardships, I can appreciate. That's the thing that's also interesting, is once you've gone through a hardship, it's easier to translate it into other fields that you don't know anything about. But your experience, your perseverance through that experience has informed you, and this is where knowledge is power, right? Now you can extrapolate. Now you can guess. Now you can sympathize. You can fathom. Right? I'm trying to use all these synonyms just to capture the idea, right? You can understand someone else that's going through a similar hardship, right? So you might not totally understand what I might be going through as a PhD student, right? Like what my ins and outs are, what my day-to-day process is, what my hardships are. But you know that it's not easy, because you went through something that had a lot of hardships, that had a lot of testing, had a lot of stress. You maybe lost sleep in certain waves of this process. You maybe, had other stressors, some anxiety, you maybe went through all these trials. And so there are a lot of similarities there for a grad student, right? We have to go through a lot of trials. We have to go through a lot of stressors. We have sleepless nights. And so you can kind of appreciate other people's hardships when you've gone through one as well. And so perseverance in that sense is actually also interesting from the social component, in that, it also allows you to kind of have that connection to others. But we're not here to talk about how perseverance helps us connect with others. We're just here to talk about our experiences having endured things, and what motivates you. So what motivates you to get a black belt? Why did you put yourself through that? No one's forcing you, right? Why do we put ourselves through these hardships? What motivates you to persevere? And I just want to, if you're just joining us now, I just want to remind everybody, I'm going to probably pepper this in throughout this stream, is that the way we kind of started this stream is from the framework of the master has failed more times than the beginner has even tried. That's kind of what separates a master from a beginner. And so why put yourself through all those failures? Is it just for the sake of being a master? Are you trying to hold? Now, I'm not saying there's any one wrong motivation. You can have many motivations. Some people may be motivated because it gives them status, it gives them power, and they feel good that way. That's when their self-esteem is higher. Okay, cool. If they're happy but they're doing good work, right? My kind of tenet there is like, as long as you're not damaging other people's lives or you're not interfering with other people's lives, like even if your motivation is for like your own ego to grow or whatever, but you're like let's just say you're benefiting society, all the power to you. Like, that's awesome. Great. Obviously, if you're destroying society, then I have some problems with that, but and you have a lot of perseverance in that, then whoo, that's dangerous. But yeah, so maybe that's your motivation. Like, oh, I want to persevere. Like, maybe some people stream because they want to be famous, but maybe their stream helps people connect and maybe makes them feel better. Maybe helps them de-stress at the end of the day. So it's like a win-win there, The people watching them are de-stressing, coping, laughing, enjoying, and the person being watched is having their self-esteem being boosted. Great, What other motivations can there be, right? Maybe you're doing it because you want to make someone proud, right? You want to do this for somebody else. Maybe you're doing it for yourself. Maybe you're doing it for your future. Maybe you're doing it for romance. I don't know. I think we could think of a lot of reasons why someone would have the motivation to endure. Where do you get that energy? Only mentally ill people have an ego. Okay, I gotta read this first one. We were comparing ourselves to a game called Apex Legends and surviving a day of black belt prep. What's up? Thank you for the follow. I really appreciate it. Mimi, I don't even know how to pronounce that. I apologize. But thanks for the follow and welcome to today's conversation. Taco Tuesday. Let me read this comment really quick. We were comparing ourselves to a game called Apex Legends as surviving a day of black belt prep wasn't easy, just like a battle royale match, and we were very happy after each class. Yeah, we're like, yeah, let's go, baby, easy. Yeah, exactly. And having that positive reinforcement is also very, very nice. It's also very rewarding and helps motivate the future. When you encounter the future problem, that you're going to have that social support as well, or like that social group that made it kind of fun. And so that's what will probably make you more likely to persevere as well. So it's like you can maybe, I'm not the expert here, but you can probably get like a snowballing effect. And that's what I kind of experienced in my organic chemistry class. Now, to kind of set up the context again with my organic chemistry class, the reason I like to kind of pinpoint that class is because in my university, as a pre-med, now I was a pre-med my entire undergrad career. And I'll talk about my transition to grad school if we want to. If anyone's interested, I can talk about that. But I was a pre-med, and one of the requirements for pre-med, I guess it's not a hard requirement, but as a pre-med, to get into medical school, you had to take something called the MCAT. The MCAT is a standardized test for getting into medical school, and it's known to be tough, and it's known to be really stressful. And getting to medical school is known to be a really stressful situation, really tough, really competitive, blah, 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 blah. So to pass the MCAT, now what was the MCAT? It was a standardized test that tested organic chemistry, biology, general chemistry, physics, but it tested multiple types of physics, your English logic, and they even included psychology now. And so there's all these different sciences, and so this is the reason why, as an undergrad, I was a psych major, but I also became a bio major because I took all those classes on the side, like physics, biology. I also took them out of interest. Like, I was really interested in neurobiology, and psychology didn't offer that at the time, so I had to go to the bio school and take courses in the life sciences building, or the School of Life Sciences, because I was in the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. That's where psychology is located. But I also had to go. I had to attend basically two different colleges within the same university, of course. If you're familiar with how do universities work, it's like an accumulation of colleges or like kind of schools within a university that each have like their dedication, right? You'll have your engineering school, your your brain, like where I'm currently located, we have a brain school. It's no longer just psychology, but it's kind of neuroscience-y or whatever you want to call it. Kind of called like brain sciences, if you will. So, anyways, I had to go do that, and so that's why I had have my 2 degrees as my undergrad because I was taking on while I was doing psychology, I was taking side courses for the MCAT so I could get good at it. One of those courses required is the OChem, is organic chemistry, and organic chemistry is has this fame to it, at least where I went to undergrad. Um, it has this, it's infamous for being what's called a weeding out class. What is a weeding out class? If you've never been to college and you've never heard of that term, what this means is that for medical school, um, there's this rumor that some classes are designed to weed out people who wouldn't make it in medical school. Meaning, if you don't pass this class, there's no way you're making it in medical school. Now, I don't believe in that, and also, I now that I'm on the teacher side, I haven't seen a single course ever be designed with that in mind, like at all. Like no professor ever talks about like how can we make sure some students fail. Like they would probably get fired for doing that actually if you did that. Like I can't speak on behalf of absolutely every university, but now being on the other side, I can say like that is nowhere near in their mind. But that was the rumor among students, and the problem with that is that creates this uphill battle in their minds. In our minds, I should say, because I remember entering it being nervous about organic chemistry, knowing it was a weeding out class, and being like, man, so it's known to be a tough class because a lot of people do not pass this class, and I saw it before my eyes. Like I took it with 3 other really good friends, and only two of us, only 2 of us passed. And so, and then after that course, actually, 3 of us were pre-meds. After organic chemistry, one friend stopped being a pre-med and swapped to a different field completely. I continued to be a pre-med, but I swapped after I graduated. I actually did take the MCAT. I took the MCAT and then decided for grad school for a different reason. But anyways, organic chemistry was that course where it was known to be the weeding out course. And so that just sets the context of that little story I just told about, how we had to persevere and all of that. And so having those friends was really great because we're encountering this course that was known to be tough, but having friends there to kind of cope with made it that much more, we were like that much easier, I guess, or smoother or anything like that. And then just to go back to that comment, only mentally ill people have an ego. When I say ego, sometimes I do mean it in the scientific way, and sometimes I do mean it in the more lay terms way. Because ego can also, it's not necessarily. Sometimes it means the self. Like we just really mean like the self. So when we talk about, sometimes I've talked about something called the egocentric bias, and that just doesn't mean that you yourself are egocentric. We all have something called an egocentric bias, where it's like we tend to like things that relate to us. And it just has that name. It doesn't necessarily mean it's negative. Now some people overdo it, of course, yeah. Like some people's egos are really inflated, and that can be problematic. But yeah. Anyway, let me see. I guess also, I'm also going to correct myself a little bit there. I just wanted to just verify the egocentric bias because I get some of them confused, like where we tend to like things that relate to us. I forget what that's actually called. I don't know if it's part of the egocentric bias. Razzle dazzle, man, are you there to back me up on this one? Because here's the definition of egocentric bias. It's a tendency to rely too heavily on one's own perspective and or have a higher opinion of oneself than reality. It appears to be the result of psychological need to satisfy one's ego to be advantageous for memory consolidation. But I know that we also have biased memories in that we tend to remember things better if they relate to us. This is why when you're learning to learn, one of the tips they tell you is like, oh, if you can find a way to relate it to your personal life, you might hold on to it better. Like you might create this shortcut. Thank you. You might create this mental shortcut. Yeah, that's the part that seeps in when I think about egocentric bias, and I don't remember if it's actually part of that bias. But anyway, cheers. Ah. So anyway, I've talked a little bit about my organic chemistry experience. Now, I did face other hardships. Like I said, I failed classes and like I failed statistics, and now I teach it. That's actually really funny. The first statistics course I took as an undergrad, I failed. I failed my first stats course, and now I have to teach it. What? This life is hilarious. Now, well, I obviously have passed statistics since then. It's not like I failed and somehow they allowed me to teach it now. Like I know what I'm talking about now. But I failed my first one, retook it, passed that course of course, and then in grad school I had to take multiple classes, like many classes statistics, and I obviously passed all of those. I actually got A's in almost all of them. I think I did get A's on all my stats courses because now I learn to appreciate what I'm learning a little bit more and I understand my learning style a little bit more. I learned that in college and in high school. It took me a while. I'm the Elon Musk of GG coins. Oh no. Oh no. What is? Yeah, you must have like big old flex. You must have a lot of coins. I've been waiting. You know what I started doing? I probably shouldn't say this, but I am too honest of a person. I'm not gonna hide this. I'm just too honest to. I've been re-practicing on the ukulele. Holy cow, you're at 9K. Okay, so you can already afford it by yourself. I've been practicing on my ukulele because I'm waiting for you to pop it. Like I'm literally waiting for you to pop it. I've been practicing my ukulele, trying to remember because I haven't touched my ukes in a while. I actually haven't touched string instruments in a while. I've been too absorbed. I got too into my drums. Like I have too much fun right now. That I just been when I practice music, I'm not like a musician. Like I said, I'm not a musician. I don't practice every day. I just do it. Sometimes when I just want to chill or something, I'll play on my drums. I've been playing that a lot more recently than my guitars, but I don't have a drum challenge there, but I do have that guitar challenge on the stream. And so you can buy it like twice now. Oh no, yeah, no, yeah, you can do twice. Yeah, I was right. Yeah. I was gonna change the price on it, but since that was the price I put originally, I felt I needed to be fair and keep it at that price. Ay, ay, ay. Okay, so any comments, questions? Anyone have any experiences they want to share with the stream? If not, I'm happy to chat about a little bit about my transition from undergrad to grad. There's like a miniature story there. It's not a long one. There's a miniature story there I just want to share about perseverance because it's another day-to-day behavior that actually changed a lot in my like a lot in my future. This day-to-day behavior changed so much of oh oops, I didn't mean to exit out of that. Changed so much of my future. Like it led so much to where I'm at now. And so I'm going to actually we're good. So I'm going to share this little story with you all. Okay, so basically, as an undergrad, so let me just rewind before I share this little story, my day-to-day perseverance, blah blah blah. I just have to set the context again. And so, as an undergrad, like I said, I was a pre-med, and if you're unfamiliar with that term, that just means you're like a pre-medical student, that you're interested in going to medical school. And if you're completely unfamiliar with what that even means, why it's called pre-med, and why you can't go straight to medical school in the U.S., because I know I've been in different countries and I understand the education system in many other countries where when you're done with high school, you go straight to medical school, straight to law school. You don't have to go to like a general school or anything like that and then go to law school or medical school or anything like that. In the U.S., you do. You do have to go to a university first, get a bachelor's degree before you can apply to law school or medical school. And so, and even grad school, actually, you need your bachelor's for the most part. At least that's my understanding. Things are changing now drastically, so I don't know. But this was the case when I was, and this wasn't even that long ago when I was applying and stuff like that. But anyways, so as an undergrad, because you cannot go straight to medical school from high school, but you want to go to medical school, what you do is you start taking classes in the university that relate to medicine and maybe relate to the particular medicine that you might want to practice way further down the line. And so from the get-go, so in high school, I didn't know what I wanted to do until my final year of my actually final semester of high school. I took a psychology course, found it interesting, and found that I was interested in the brain. And before then, I also wanted to do a job where I could help people because that's just generally what I found that I liked in life was just like I like being helpful. Like I feel good about myself when I help others. So I found like this selfish positive motivation is what I like to call it now, I guess. Is like, like if I help others, it makes me feel good. So there's like a selfish component of it, but it's like a win-win. Like they get some help and I feel good about myself, so cool. I didn't understand it at the time. Well, I didn't conceptualize it that way at the time. I just knew in high school that I wanted to learn about the brain and I wanted to help people. So I kind of thought about like what careers do that, and I landed on psychiatry. I'm like, okay, well, medicine helps people, and psychiatry studies the brain. Cool. And so I started taking psychology because I thought that's the closest to psychiatry. So that's why I was a psych major in undergrad. And then being a medical pre-med student, as I said, you have to take the MCAT, the entrance exam to medical schools. And to take that, you need to practice a lot of different sciences that aren't part of the psych degree. Now, maybe you're saying if I could have been efficient and been a bio major and just taken all those courses, but I was just really interested in the brain and wanted to verify that I did really want to do it because I didn't want to go to medical school and find out that I hate it. So I did want to find out if I liked the brain or not. So that's why I was a psych major and took bio courses on the side, and ultimately also became a bio major and got my bio degree as well. And so that's all I knew, right? But as I went through undergrad, okay, I got experience working for a psychiatrist. Right, I shadowed a psychiatrist for a couple of years. That was an amazing experience and learned a lot from a psychiatrist. I volunteered in a hospital and I worked in a research lab. So I was trying to get all this experience so I can be a really competitive applicant to medical schools. And so all those experiences came with their own failures, and I had to persevere through those experiences as well. It's not like you persevere in one thing. That's the difficult part here, is you got to persevere in so many different ways. Every day, even, you're persevering. You got to get out of bed. You got to do things you might not like, you know. Every day we're persevering. It requires energy from us. It might stress us. And we also got to persevere in the long run. And so obviously long run perseverance is built from your day-to-day perseverance. So they are obviously related, but maybe conceptually it might sound different, like they're unrelated, or not unrelated, but two different concepts. But just when we zoom in on our long-term goals, well, it's made up of our short-term daily activities, right? And so as an undergrad, I was, this pre-med, doing all those courses, trying to take the MCAT, being in a research lab, and I went through all those individual failures, had to overcome them in my research lab, in the hospital, in the psychiatric office. I had to overcome all those challenges and eventually get to a point that I don't know. I guess I had to overcome a lot of challenges, and I had to keep persevering and despite those challenges. And that's why I like that definition that I brought up at the very beginning of the stream. I'll bring it up again. Here, I'll bring up the definition of what we're talking about, just so we're all on the same ground again, with this persistence in doing something despite difficulty or delay in achieving success. So I was working in a hospital for free, and I was devoting hours upon hours there, and it was just so I could have experience to put on my CV and possibly get a letter of recommendation. And there was a lot of difficulty there, and there was no success to be achieved there. I wasn't going to get promoted. I wasn't going to get any bonus. The success I was trying to achieve is getting into medical school, so that was delayed success. So that's why I really like this definition of perseverance, because we're persevering despite not being rewarded the same day we're putting in that energy. And sometimes our brains don't like that. The brain, if it's going to put in energy, it probably wants to see a reward out of it. Otherwise, well, why do it, right? And so perseverance is kind of that also important factor for those achieving those long-term goals where you don't get immediately rewarded. And so I was doing all that, blah blah blah. And so long story short, when I was doing all of that stuff, I get burnt out, right? So I do a double degree in the same go. So I had to do coursework overload, which means like I was taking the normal coursework load, or the normal load of work that a typical student would encounter, and I took extra courses on top because I was trying to graduate with everyone else in 4 years, but I was doing 2 degrees at once, so I ended up taking 5 years. I took an extra to do it, so I didn't get to graduate in 4 years, which is totally fine. There's like no rush. I mean, some people are in a rush. I wasn't in a rush, I should say. Some people are in a rush to get out for many reasons. Sorry. Thank you. I wasn't in a rush, but some people are in a rush to get out for many reasons. Sometimes it's financial reasons, right? Every year that you stay in a university, at least in the U.S., if you're not funded or don't have financial support, then every year is just going to cost you more. So that might be a motivation to leave college early, which is totally fine, or to graduate as fast as possible. I was in a fortunate spot where I didn't have to concern myself too much about that, but I was also in the spot where I was taking a lot of courses that it also just required more time to get 2 degrees. But anyway, so I was doing all that, and I was doing my jobs on the side. I was also a waiter on the side to be saving up money. I would be like waiting tables on weekends. I know it sounds like this weird sob story. I still had fun and stuff like that too. I'm not trying to say this as a sob story. Like, oh, I was that kid that was poor, and I wasn't poor or anything like that. But I had my schedule very busy, because that's what you're told as a pre-med. Like, if you want to get accepted in medical school, you got to be competitive. To be competitive, you got to do some stuff. And so I filled my schedule basically, including my summers and all of that. And so what that led to is that I got burnt out. And what I decided to do is something that a lot of my cousins had done in their lives, and I kind of wanted to do as well. That everyone seemed to, after college or at some point in their life, all my cousins went to go live somewhere else outside of the country. Now, all my family's from Mexico, so I'm not like that's where we're from. I have a different backstory. I was born in the U.S., but I kind of grew up in Mexico. I was kind of between the countries. That's why I have an American accent when I speak English, because I got to learn English as a kid. But I also got to learn Spanish as a kid. That's why when I travel and I speak Spanish, people will be like, "Oh, you're Mexican," because they can hear my Mexican accent. Um, and so, anyway, so all my cousins, when they had finished their university and that's why I was saying I'm aware of other education systems because I've been in them. I've been around them. I have cousins that went to universities, in Mexico and in other countries as well. I have some cousins that are currently universities in Europe. I was applying to university in Europe as well, so I kind of understand some of how it kind of works over there. I lived in Europe for a little bit. Anyway, I digress there. Um, what I'm trying to say now, actually, now I don't even know what I'm trying to say. Shoot, now I forgot because I digressed too much. Oh yeah, right, right. So all my cousins had lived somewhere else. And so I was like, I want to do that. Like, and their experience sounded awesome. It sounds like they got to grow as a person. Like maybe, yeah, it wasn't the most academically professional thing, but they had just finished their college, and so and I had just finished mine. So I was like, okay, I'm probably gonna do the same thing. Now, it is difficult. I'm gonna say this, like, I don't always recommend gap years to people because it just depends on who you are. Now, I had, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, I had that like kind of strong motivation in me to just continue learning. I always was fascinated with science and learning and stuff like that. And so I always felt like undergrad wasn't enough for me, and so I had a strong motivation to either go to medical school or grad school. And Germany is where I kind of I moved to Germany after I got burnt out. Moved to Germany, and I had that space where I was away from my professional life and got to kind of live life, because that's what I saw my cousins, like I was saying. They got to go and be, like, I got to go in a different culture that they don't know. They don't even know the language. I had a cousin that lived on some Greek island for a little bit, worked at the bar, and that sounded like a fun experience. Like, I would want to do something like that, like just go to a Greek island. Like, I don't know Greek, but like, I've been to Greece now. Like, it's an awesome country. Like, they have some really cool stuff to see and experience. And so I was like, that sounds like a great experience. Like a bartender. It was at a hostel, like a bartender at a hostel, and that's how you can kind of pay for your stay. Like, you can have free stay provided you work for the hostel. It's kind of a cool thing. So you can travel in Europe for very cheap. So that's what I was thinking. I wanted to do it. So I moved to Germany. And I went to Berlin, and I did enroll in German classes, so I got to take some German, got to learn some German. I love German. Ich habe Deutsch gelernt und es war ganz cool. Ich liebe Deutsch. In Deutschland oh, es ist wie ein Traum. So, anyways, I got to be there, and so that space in Germany is where I got to think about, well, what is it that I really like? Because my experience in the hospital, my experience in psychiatry kind of showed me the pros and cons, and my experience in research also showed me the pros and cons. And what I came to find out about myself is the thing that truly ignited me, that gave me energy, that didn't take energy away from me, right? The thing that gave me energy was science, was learning and communicating the learning things, so teaching as well, because and this was happening in a space where I was around people that I didn't know. I didn't speak the language because I moved to Berlin without having I didn't speak German. I just picked up my bags and went, right? Found a really cheap accommodation in Berlin and just started trying to live life there for a little bit. I ended up staying about 2 years. And so in that time, I didn't apply to medical schools, I applied to grad schools. So now that's the context in which I'm applying to grad schools, right? And and I applied from Germany. My first round of grad schools, I applied to about 11 schools. And I'm getting to the story of the perseverance again. I'm going to tie it back in again. I applied to about 11 schools. I got rejected from almost all of them. I got accepted into a couple, but I didn't want to go to. Or I think I got accepted like one or something. I don't even remember, to be honest. But I didn't want to go to it. Because I went in for the interview and I was like, oh, this isn't exactly what I imagined, or this isn't exactly what I wanted to do. So I didn't end up going to that school. But anyways, I got rejected from the schools I did want to go to. And I reached out to them and asked why. Like, why didn't I get accepted? What can I do to maybe improve my chances for the next application? Because like I said, I was just dead set on doing more than my undergrad. But that was just me. I'm not saying that's the right path for everybody. Everybody has their own path. But that was just me. I was just like, I need to keep doing more. Like, I just want to keep learning more. I feel like I have this like itch I need to scratch. I have this curiosity about me that that I just need to do more. And science is the way I scratch that itch, because science is at the forefront of knowledge, right? Scientific experiments are because we don't know something and we're trying to answer that question. And so as a scientist, I get to be at that forefront. Like, I get to scratch the itch as soon as possible instead of waiting for other scientists to do it and then get my answer for questions. And so I got rejected from so many schools. And so my second round, I reached out to other schools, and I actually did end up getting feedback. So if you are rejected from places, like, you can ask them, well, why? Like, that's a valid question. Why? They might not respond to you, and that's also valid. They don't have to. They don't owe you that. But they might do the courtesy. They might do you the favor and respond, because these people that I emailed are incredibly busy people. And I didn't expect a response from them, to be honest, because I had already been around professors, and professors are incredibly busy people. But a lot of them are super nice and more than willing to help. And so several professors did actually reach out to me when I asked them, why didn't I get accepted? What can I do to improve my chances? They reached out and said, like, okay, yeah, we didn't accept you because you didn't have any animal experience. So because I applied to a lot of behavioral neuroscience labs, and those typically work with animal models. And I had zero experience in my undergrad with animal models. The research lab I had joined in my undergraduate experience was working with humans. It was a cultural psychology lab, and it was a social psychology lab with some studies in cultural psychology. And and so um, and so I had zero experience with animals, and so what I did, right, part of the perseverance, and this isn't the miniature story. I'm still building up to it. This is the longer story building to the shorter story, and I guess it's all connected. So this is one long story, I should say. And again, I'm happy to stop talking and we can have a conversation if anyone wants to. Um, So what I did is I went and joined a lab after already having graduated the university, after already being an undergrad and getting a salary job. And after having lived in Berlin, I returned to the U.S. and because I applied to American colleges and I applied to some universities in Berlin. Berlin Insta just rejected me. Like, I didn't even get to send a CV or anything. They just saw some of my numbers from, like, they asked for like, you have to put in your transcript from the U.S. into some formula that converts it into a measurement for German educational system. And they instant rejected me, like, nope, you're trash, get out of here. And I was like, oh. No, they didn't say it like that, but basically, like, they instant rejected me. Like, I didn't get to talk to anybody, I didn't get interviewed, which is very different from the American system. Like, an American system, there's a package component to it. It's not just your grades. That, like, your grades can help open doors, yes, and get you into certain doors or certain things, but it's not just your grades, right? Like I mentioned, I failed in undergrad and I was still able to get into institutions or into grad schools that don't, like, that are not the worst, is what I'm trying to say. They're not the most prestigious, but some of them are quite prestigious. One of the schools that accepted me is quite prestigious one. Other ones, not so much, but they're all good universities at the end of the day, is what I'm trying to say. And so it's not just GPA, so that's what I was used to, but in Germany they have different systems and I got rejected. So I applied to a lot of American universities and I didn't get accepted into a lot of American universities. So I moved back from Germany to the US, and in US is where I do my next round of applications. But this time I did some learning, I did some studying, and this is where perseverance was kicking in again, right? I was not going to take no for an answer. I was going to get accepted to grad school regardless of how old I was going to get, right? Because I was already beyond the typical age of someone who enters grad school. I had gone to Germany for 2 years, got rejected in one cycle. That's a third year of waiting to get into grad school. I apply again to graduate school, finally get accepted to somewhere I do want to go, but then you have to wait another year to start, right? Because you apply in cycles and you apply 1 year ahead of your start time. And so I finally get accepted, but then I have another year to go. So I had a 4-year gap between my undergrad and grad. So I was entering quite old. I didn't care, and it's totally fine. A lot of people do that, and I'm not trying to point it out as like a sob story or anything like that. Like, didn't matter, but that was the case there. And so another thing that I want to mention is before I applied, I also got that experience in a behavioral neuroscience lab working with rats. I got to work with rats, and the way I did that was because I cold called my university that I used to go to. I cold called the lab I had no relation to, but again, this is that perseverance component. I was motivated to keep doing something despite delay in success, and my success here would be, my goal there was get accepted to grad school. That was like my goal. And so I was willing to do all this work. I was volunteering in this lab. So I cold called a lab, a behavioral neuroscience lab, because I got the feedback that said, hey, you don't know, you haven't worked with animals, and we don't like to accept graduate students who haven't worked with animals. And at the time, I was like, oh, come on, I can do it, whatever. But now I really understand why. I'm so glad they reject people on that basis, because after having gotten experience with animals, it's really great that they reject people if you've never had experience with animals, because what you can find is that although you're really interested in the science, you might find that you can't work with animals for one reason or another. So I loved working with rats, hated killing them. It would affect me so much. I couldn't kill these rats. It was so hard, but it was part of the job. It was part of our research. We had to decapitate them to extract the brains, to slice up the brains, to study the hippocampus, the memory center of the brain. We're trying to study very specific regions of the hippocampus. And so part of that scientific process, and it allows for really good learning for this, and I'm not against this type of things, but I personally just couldn't do it. And so then you think, man, devoting 5 years of my life to doing that would have made me suffer a lot, and I probably wouldn't have been so successful in that type of program. So I'm glad I got rejected from those graduate schools. So it just goes to show that because I persevered, I was able to understand from my failure, learn to understand from my failure or my rejection. I understood something, right? I learned from it because then I went and got the experience that my failure told me I had to get. Got it, learned, wow, that's not for me. So I just avoided 5 years or all this other extra failure that I didn't necessarily need to go to because I went and learned from one of my previous failures. And I endured in doing so, right? I faced difficulty and then I just went and got that experience. And I experienced it. I was like, yeah, rats are amazing animals. They're incredibly smart. They're fun to observe and study, but it's not so fun to kill them. Now, I don't judge anyone that does what I'm saying, and I didn't meet people who had fun killing them, I should say. I don't want to portray that image. No one in my lab had a lot of fun doing it. I think a lot more on the same boat, but a lot of those people were able to put up with it a lot better than I could. And so now for the story of applying to my current lab. Um, And so here in this, so now we kind of understand the context a little bit. So the context is I've moved back from Germany. I have a salary job. It's an 8 to 5 job and it's nothing to do with what I like doing. It's just to pay the bills, right? Because I had moved out from home now. At this point, I was getting older in life, and I had met someone in Germany, and I started living with them with a girlfriend there. And so I had to move out, and so I had to pay for my own place, pay for my rent and food and blah blah blah. And so I got a full-time job. And so on top of that full-time job is when I also volunteered for a lab and I had to go do some stuff with the lab. And my full-time job was very flexible with that. They were very supportive, so that was really nice. They knew that my lab was my priority. Like I wasn't there to work for life. That I was trying to get out as soon as possible, and by that meaning get accepted to grad school and go to grad school and do that for the rest of my life. And so what I did was while I was doing these things is I started doing a lot of research into grad schools, but found out the more appropriate way to apply to grad school. I'm going to just fix the lighting in here. So again, I've got rejected from so many schools, and I'm saying that I through the perseverance, I learned also other things I needed to do to refine my strategy to get into grad school. Because the first round of applications, I did do a lot of research on applications, and I tried to produce the best application I could, right? But there's still more I had to learn. There's something I didn't fully understand about the applications, and that's like basically you're applying based on fitness, like how much your interests fit with the program, and not so much your academic excellency. I mean, your academic excellency matters, but for grad school, especially in research, your fit is also really important. I underestimated the importance of fit when it came to my acceptance into graduate schools. And so I understood that for the second cycle, and so I started doing something that I like. Well, it's not something I like to call. I like to use the term headhunting and apply it in this situation. I started headhunting professors. So instead of looking at departments as a whole and be like, could I live there? Do I like that? Do I like the department? Is it a prestigious department? Can I get a good job based on that degree? I stopped doing that and started looking, but this is for grad school. This does not apply to undergrad. Undergrad is a whole different story. And I see your comment, Lemon, and welcome, Lemon. Good to see you. Welcome to the Tuesday. This is for graduate school. I'm telling a story right now about my experience here. This isn't a generalized experience, by the way. So for grad school, fit becomes pretty important. And so I started headhunting. What that means, I started reading into individual professors about their research and understanding them so my application can be tailored to them and show the university that I would be a good fit with that professor, because I need to convince that professor and their department that I'm a good fit. And so to do that, what did I do? So one of my favorite labs, what I did, and it happened to be in a state nearby. Like it was not a drivable distance, but it was close enough. I mean, it was a drivable. It's not a drivable distance. No, I shouldn't call it drivable distance. I drove it anyway because I was just talking about perseverance. I was just so motivated to try to do my best to get into this lab. So what I did is I cold called, or I just out of the blue emailed the principal investigator, the PI or the boss of that lab. I email him and I say, hey, I'm really interested. And I did this to several labs, not just this one, just several labs that interested me. And said, hey, because I had already done this, so I knew this works, and I had already done this right when I moved back from Germany and I was working. And I got a volunteer position in a lab, in a research lab, after already having graduated undergrad. I wasn't part of the university anymore. I cold called my own university that I graduated from, said, hey, do you have any volunteer positions for a research assistant? I don't need pay. I just want the experience. And they took me in. And so I did the same exact thing again. I was like, well, I'm still in the same spot I was when I got that volunteer position in my undergrad. Well, why can't I do that for other schools? And so I started cold calling all these universities. I even, like, to Princeton, I sent them an email like, hey, your lab sounds really interesting to me. I'm interested in being a volunteer in your lab. Do you have any open positions? And they would be really nice. Be like, yeah, right now I don't actually. I'm sorry. Or other people would be like, yeah, but like you don't live in this state. I don't want you to move here for a volunteer spot. Like no way. And so for one of the professors, he didn't give me a direct no. Well, he said that he didn't have any spots because he had just opened his lab. And I said, well, like, can I help in any way opening the lab? So I got a no. So I sent this one professor, and I'm talking about the lab that I'm currently a part of. And I'm happy to just really quick time out. Let me just read the comment. Sounds like the spot I'm in right now. I'm happy to have a conversation about that, and you can explain what you mean by that, and we can have a conversation. But I'm just going to quickly finish this story here. So this is the lab I'm currently a part of, right? So I cold call, and the professor, the boss, or the mentor, my advisor now says, no, we have no position, sorry. And I go, okay, well, why? Like, I kind of wonder. He didn't just say that cold. He's like, I just arrived to this university, which is true. I just arrived. I'm still building my lab myself, so we don't really have any work for you. Like, there's no research going on. We don't have any work. So, but thank you for your interest in my lab. And I was like, okay, cool. But I was like, okay, well, that wasn't a no in my face. Like, it wasn't a no that I can't work. It's just a no for now, right? Like, now there's no work, but in the future there's going to be work. So then I just emailed back like, okay, well, maybe would you mind having like a Zoom chat with me or something like that? So then we talked, and again in that talk, I tried again to pitch like, hey, can I volunteer to work in your lab? Like, I'm happy to help set up. I just want experience, and your research sounds incredibly interesting to me. And he said again, no, that he couldn't have me move to the city where the university is located at because, the cost of that state and the cost of the city is expensive, and he would feel bad not being able to pay me because, like, I have no funding right now to pay you, and I can't have you move and know that you're moving here just for this experience and me not be able to pay you. And so, I'm going to say really quick so I don't forget this process also has a silver lining to it that I learned that I kind of picked up on as I was doing this interview. The cool thing about having this back and forth with this professor, on top of not only just already establishing rapport and trying to get experience with him, was also that I was getting to see who my potential boss was. I was getting to see that. Like, how does he treat strangers? How does he treat me? Is he rude to me? Does he have time for me? Is he gonna make time for me? If I'm gonna be his mentee, will he be a mean mentor? Am I gonna be suffering for 5 years? Because PhDs are long, and you're gonna be working with this person very closely for 5 years. And so the cool thing about this process, about me persevering, right? I could have taken his no and stopped emailing him, but I decided not to. Now, there's always a right time and place, right? Because he didn't give me a reason not to. Obviously, if he said, I don't have any positions and I don't see anything in the near future, but thanks for the interest, then I would have just left him alone. But the way his language, I don't remember exact language, but the language said, like, it wasn't a no yet. And so that's why I was like, I'm going to keep asking. I'm going to persevere. And so we had that Zoom chat. I got to learn more about his lab. And in doing so, I kind of asked again, like, I would really love to volunteer. And he said no. But then eventually, after 4 no's, basically, I kept asking, "Can I come work for you? Can I come work for you?" I kept getting no's. On the fourth no, and this is 4 emails and one Zoom chat, like where we met or we talked in face to face online. He eventually goes, "Okay, you know what? Like, if you're ever in the area, though, I'm happy to give you a tour of my lab." What I did was, uh, I can be in the area. Oh, I made up a reason to be in the area. I'm like, oh, actually, yeah, I'm gonna be in the area visiting some people because I do have like a family friends that don't live in the city. I'm gonna read all these comments in just a second. I promise. I really promise. I will. Um, Anyways, so I did have people that like I could potentially visit, but the real reason was to go visit his lab. So what I did was I also contacted several other labs in the area, just so I could be efficient about my trip, right? If I'm gonna make a trip out, and it's a far trip, if I'm gonna make a far trip to these universities, I might as well get like as much out of it as possible. And so I also contacted like 4 other universities in the area that I would maybe. I wasn't really thinking about applying to, but maybe if I got a campus tour and talked to some of the labs there, that I might become interested. Because another thing that I learned in throughout my rejection and acceptance cycle was that I needed to stop worrying about how prestigious the schools or what type of title it carries. What I needed to worry about was what was the research being done on those campuses. Do I like that research, and do my interests align with that research? That's what really mattered. And so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to give these other universities a fair try. Let's just see. And so I planned this trip where I went to other universities to also make it look like I wasn't desperate to the person I was applying to, the person I kept saying this, because I wasn't desperate, but I really wanted to understand the lab, because what was posted on the lab website. And if you're ever interested in research labs, just know that most research labs have a lab website that you can read about their research, read their publications, read about read about the personnel in the lab. Just so you know, if anyone's interested in research labs, most labs in research have a website, and it's easily accessible, and you can even download their science. And so because I had read a lot about my advisor's work, I was just really motivated to get in. And so, but anyways, so I kind of cook up this scheme. And again, this is because I was motivated to keep enduring despite difficulty and delay in achieving success, right? Going back to this definition of perseverance, our today's topic, I kept doing this because I had that motivation. I can't explain fully why I was just so hell-bent on, doing this. I just had, I just really wanted to get into grad school. And so I go and tour. I go to the lab and I tour the lab. I do tour other labs, but really I was there to tour with this lab. I get the tour, and eventually when I apply, at this point, it was I couldn't say it was a guaranteed acceptance. I don't know that for sure, but I can say that my probability of getting accepted was way higher than if I had just applied and never had persevered and gotten all these no's from my advisor. If I hadn't done all of that, because that to my advisor, what did I show my advisor in persevering was not only that I'm a person who persists, right? That in face of difficulty, because in grad school you're going to face difficulty, and what grad school is going to try to do is they don't want to accept someone that is going to suffer. They don't want to accept someone that's going to quit after 2 years as well, because it's also an investment on their behalf, the professor's time and money, the school's time, and other people's time and energy. It's a lot of investment. So they don't want you to just drop out. Once you're accepted, there's a lot of support for you to stay in there. And there's a lot of, Anyway. So what I showed was, well, I'm going to persist. Even if you're telling me no, I don't really take no for an answer. I'm going to keep trying. And so that's something that's really important in science as well, right? We do studies, we get null results all the time, but we don't give up. We go, okay, next study. Because if we gave up after one null result, then science would never progress. We wouldn't progress if we just gave up like that, right? And so that saying again, the master has tried more times than the beginner has even failed, applies to science as well, right? A lot of theories, the strongest theories have been tested, retested, probably because there's been a lot of components that failed throughout the time, and then the theory gets refined, gets tweaked, and we learn from it because we learn from the failures. And so ultimately, I did get accepted into this school that I'm currently at, and I know that a lot of the reason why I'm here is because I persevered. Actually, the only reason why not the only reason, I should say, but my perseverance caused my acceptance, right? If I didn't persevere, if I quit, then I probably wouldn't be here. All right. That's the little story about perseverance. That's what I want to just chat about perseverance, some of my personal experiences from undergrad and graduate school, and my transition to graduate school. Of course, I have way more stories I can tell about how perseverance is needed in graduate school and the difficulties of doing a PhD, but those are the two I really wanted to focus on. Now I'm just going to go turn to the comments because we have a conversation cooking up, so this is awesome. So let's see. Sounds good. Also, did not know you cold called grad schools first. Yeah, I did. Quite cool that you did this. Actually, out of the box thinking right there. Yeah, I cold called. Um, because something that I realized, right? I had this realization while I was doing applications. Also, it wasn't just my own real. It wasn't my own epitome either. I didn't have this by myself. Epiphany, sorry, not epitome. It wasn't my own epiphany either. Something that I like. Some tips I got in undergrad. One from my older brother that had also gone through undergrad. Which again, I have to acknowledge is a huge benefit. That's something that we know in psychology, or at least in social sciences, I guess. Some predictors of success. If you have family members that have already been through undergrad, those will help you. So I try to say these things just so I'm as open and honest about my situation. Because again, I say my situation, but I don't expect everyone to have the exact situation and look down on people who can't do the same thing I can, or try to compare my situation to others. I'm just trying to give examples and things like that, and have a conversation here. And so one tip that my older brother gave me was, if you don't ask, you don't get. And he gave it to me in the context of getting extra credit points, of going into office hours for your professors, and being like, hey, is there anything I can do to improve my grade? The worst you're going to get is a no. And although being too pushy can be negative, you don't want to rub your professors the wrong way. But when we actually think about that, yeah, the worst you can get is a no. It's not like they're gonna fail you on what for asking. And so I actually started doing that, and I could also see an impact to my grades that way. Now, also, there's a self-fulfilling prophecy there that in being that type of student, well, you also are going into office hours more, and you're being exposed to this knowledge more. So you're likely gonna be understanding things more anyway. But asking doesn't hurt, was what I'm trying to say. And so yeah, that's kind of where I also had the epiphany where I applied that logic, because in college I knew this logic. If you don't ask, you don't get. But I was like this about it, right? But growing up, maturing, and going through other life experiences taught me that, like, well, what if I applied that logic to life? And so, being out of college, cold called the professors, like, what's the worst that can happen? They say no. They can't reject me. I haven't even applied yet. They can't fail me. I'm not their student. Like, what's gonna happen? Like, maybe they hate me, and maybe that's why I got rejected from some schools. I can't say. I can't guarantee that that what I did is the right thing to do, but I can say that all humans don't react the same. So some people probably didn't like it, but there's also probably humans that like it, that will react positively to it. And so I'm just like a fisherman casts a wide net. The wider the net, the more likely I am to catch a fish that I like, right? And I don't support fishing with nets right now. I've been learning a lot about oceans and stuff like that, and I'm really appalled by fish nets right now. So but this is just an analogy, right? And so, right, as a fisher, if your goal was to catch as many fish, or a particular fish, you'd want to cast your net wide. So that's what I did. I cold called universities. Maybe that hurt me with some, but some of the ones I can tell you it helped. Like, I know that. Okay, so let me keep reading. Here's my situation in short. I plan to attend law school in 2023. Awesome. So you're pre-law right now then. I applied in Jan of 22, so very recently. Okay, congrats. Kind of on time, but also late. I was late with some of my applications and did not get accepted in any schools. Okay. That happened to me. So I'm going to try my best to reapply early in September this year for starting fall. Okay, that's a good idea. I'm in Georgia. FYI, I'm in Georgia. Okay. Yeah, I was in your position. I applied to grad schools and get accepted in my year off. I do usually, I would say, like, if you're trying to improve your chances of getting accepted into a law school. Now, I don't know a lot about law school. I knew people that were pre-law, and I knew that you had to take the LSAT, and but I don't know all of the application important things. I know it's very similar to MCAT, and the sorts of things, like the sorts of pressures that are put on pre-law students is very similar to pre-meds, because like I said, I was around a lot of pre-laws when I was a pre-med. A lot of pre-laws kind of overlap with pre-meds in a lot of the societies, and some of my really close friends, some of the people I knew personally, were pre-laws. I dated a pre-law, and so yeah, just graduate BA. Polls, is that political science? Because that would make sense for pre-law if you did political science. I have to go turn on a light in my apartment. It's starting to get a little dark. Poli-sci. Okay, cool. Let me just turn on the lights really quick. It's starting to get dark around me, so I'm going to do that and also refill my water. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Okay, so what do you want to chat about? Or like, I don't know if you have any conversation or you just want to put it out there, because like, I could give suggestions based on my experience, but like I said, I'm not pre-law. I don't know what law schools search for. But I'll like what I need to improve. Okay, so yeah, I've done. So I like to read just so the whole stream is aware. Sometimes I like to read the comments out because I still don't have the bot that does text to speech or speech to text or whatever, text to speech. So when there's text and then the whole stream can. So if you're hearing this, you can't hear. Obviously, you can't hear the text. So I like to read it out because I don't have that bot yet. I haven't had the time or the energy to put it in. If anyone knows how to quickly do it, I'm really happy to learn. Yeah, hit me up on Discord. And again, the Discord invite, just so everyone's aware, really quick. Sorry for this really quick pause. I'm just bringing it up right now. The invite to the Discord. Oh no, I can hear myself. There we go. There we go. So on the Twitch page itself, there's this Discord like little section. If you click that Discord, you can join the Discord. And so if you need it, if you want to chat with me there, we can chat there. So anyways, oh yeah, so if you know how to do those bots really quickly, hit me up on Discord. You can join the Discord there and you can hit me up there. Anyway, so that's why I read the comments. Yeah, I have done a decent amount of research regarding what I need to improve to reapply, mainly my LSAT score, yeah. So got to really study for it. I was kind of just putting out there unless you had. Okay, so some of my thoughts. I do have thoughts. Because something, although I don't know law school precisely, just like I haven't been to med school, but there are generalities to schools, right? To upper. Okay, cool. Yeah. Yeah, if you do mind, let me know and I can stop. But my assumption, just so again the stream is aware, because you're typing it in an already public forum where anyone has access to this, I assume you also don't have problems with me reading out loud because you're already putting it out into a public space. So if you did have a problem with me reading it, I'm like, well, why are you typing it in the same public domain? It's just in a different format. So that's my assumption. But if you do have problems, I can stop. I don't mind. But just be aware that you are writing it. So if you do want to talk about private matters or more personal matters, that's what also the Discord is there for. We can chat there offline, right? We don't have to chat online. Anyway, back to this. So I do have some ideas because those are based on generalities that I've experienced going into upper education. When I say upper education, I mean from undergrad to even to post. I guess what you call it, post-bachelor education. And so there seems to be generalities, right? Each school, whether you do PhD, JD, each doctorate, I should say, seems to have some generalities because we have those three types of doctorates primarily. You have the Juris Doctorate, law, right? For everyone in the stream that's unaware, right? PhD is a doctor as well. Like we call the only ones that get to be called doctors in our society usually medical doctors, but lawyers are also doctors. Actually, they're Juris Doctorates. That's what That's what their degree stands for. The JD, Juris Doctorate. The MD, the medical doctors is medical doctor, and PhD. It's weird because it's like PhD the order, but the way we say it is Doctorate of Philosophy. So it's like one becomes like a doctor of health and medicine and well-being, keeping our society healthy. Others become the doctors or the gurus of justice and keeping our laws and keeping the justice and our laws and all of that in order in our society. And then PhD is keeping our truth, like keep progressing the truth and progressing our knowledge. That's kind of what I see the doctorate as, like these pillars of society, if you will. So I tend to see some generalities, but I can't give you very good, like as fine-tuned steps to take as if you were interested in research, for example, or grad school. Of course, that one I can tell you all the steps I took and the steps that a lot of people around me took, so I can speak from a lot of those. But some of the generalities are like improving your LSAT. Yeah, I mean, I think you can do that on the MCAT. You can do that on the GRE. So every school PhD entrance exams GRE. I hear that schools are actually starting to remove it, but I don't know about the MCAT or LSAT. Yeah, but like so something that actually I don't know how important it is for law schools to see like extracurricular activities, because grad school and med school, it is important and the activities can differ depending on which one you want to go to. So grad school, like being a research assistant is nice. So what I would recommend to someone waiting a year between undergrad and grad school or waiting for the next application cycles, join a lab, right? And so for law school, I don't know how important that is or how important it is to get experience, but I can say is any employer, because after all, a lot of these types of schools you can kind of see like as a job application what employers want. They want the best employee, someone that's gonna be also happy. Well, ideally they would be happy. But a happy employee will produce better work. They won't quit on you. They won't complain. They'll, like I said again, they'll produce good work, so that's good for the business. um, and so sometimes what can help these acceptance processes is demonstrating that you do like what you're about to get yourself into. And how do you do that? By showing you already have experience in it. So I understand that there is possibility you can volunteer in law offices. Like, I don't know if you have to have a certain degree for paralegals, but I know I used to work. So like I mentioned, I was I almost said a lawyer. I'm nowhere near a lawyer. I was a waiter, and I worked with this girl whose dad was a lawyer and a medical doctor. Like, this guy was insane. He was like, he did his law degree in his 40s or 50s because he got bored of medicine. Like, he was a heart surgeon, or maybe it was too. He's like, he said it was too stressful being a heart surgeon, and so like in his 40s or 50s went to law school and got a law degree. So she wanted to get a law degree, and so like I know that she was working. I'm working and trying to intern. Okay, cool. Um, I have heard activities is important, but the LSAT score weighs them. Oh, really? Okay. Because that's starting to become less and less a thing for grad school, for PhDs. The GRE score isn't, and even some schools are even getting rid of needing the GRE. But okay, if that's the case, then yeah. I mean, my tip there would be, obviously, my tip to anything is we can take a page out of the book of Sun Tzu's the Art of War, right? Like, know your enemy, like plan, know your enemy. Knowledge is half the battle. Those types of sayings and things like that. So obviously, it sounds like you've done your homework. So if LSAT's really that heavy, well, that's what you got to prioritize, right? So, and I think if LSAT's like the GRE, because I know it's not exactly like the MCAT or the GRE. It has its own things, but you're doing a lot of logic. That's what I remember. A lot of English. I don't think you have to do math. Otherwise, I would have tips for you for like doing a GRE or something like that. But obviously, daily practice is what can help you get standardized tests down to the key, right? Daily practice and practicing your endurance, your mental endurance. I don't know how long the LSAT is, but that's something that people tend to underestimate about MCAT or GRE is they are long exams, and endurance is part of it. So it's not only just practicing the concepts themselves, but practicing it in an endurance style. So your stamina also needs to be improved. Okay, let's see. And then I am working on trying to intern at a local law firm. Okay, cool. So that's gonna be a big booster. Like, in this year off, the other thing that you can show law schools is, well, you didn't just do nothing. Like, although you're studying, that can't be put on your CV, right? I'm assuming you're here. Let me see what this is. Oh, what is on the LSAT? Logical reasoning, arguments. Yeah, I remember that. Because I remember while I was studying for the MCAT, people like the someone like a friend of mine or an ex of mine would be studying next to me, studying for the LSAT, and some of the things would overlap. So we could like the MCAT. And same with the GRE has English comprehension. No, it's working. I have it open. Has English comprehension and like critical thinking through English, like logic games as well. Yeah, analytical reasoning. That's what ours was called. Logical reasoning, reading comprehension. Yeah, we had that. Variable section. So it's all just wow. This is pure logic. So we had our logic section, but we also had our scientific section on the MCAT. The GRE didn't. The GRE was English, but English is like critical thinking English, so you had to do reading comprehension and analytical reasoning. And then we had our math component. And then the MCAT had its science, so it's biology, organic chemistry, general chemistry, physics, reading comprehension, English. It's the longest of the two tests I had to take was, or the longer of the two tests I had to take was the MCAT. So okay, cool. You only have to do that once. So, and then do they replace your score? How does the scoring work? Do you get to, if you take it again, do they average your scores, or do they replace your score with the best score? Do you know that component? Because that's something that you, I mean, if your LSAT score was true, like if you really needed to retake it, of course. But if it was decent, then that's something because when I took the GRE, mine was a like it was good, but it wasn't competitive enough for some degrees or some departments. Sorry, and and so I had to measure that choice of like, do I want to retake it, but then it stays on my record? Replace best score with others. However, the amount of times you take is reflected on your application. Yeah, so that's part of the strategic thing. Of course, in some situations you definitely want to retake it, and other ones you might want to reconsider. But something that just kind of came to my mind that can maybe help you as well. So are you and obviously like this is where you have to be honest with yourself. You don't have to be honest with me or anyone, but it's really important that you're honest with yourself. Are you really dead set on law? And you don't even have to know that 100%, but if like out of all your passions and all your likes, that's like the leading one, go for it. But is this like kind of like what you're really liking, what you really want to do? Because if you're not entirely sure yet, because you might be wanting to go to law school for many reasons, your motivations might be external to you, right? Like maybe you have pressure from family, pressure from X, Y, and Z. I don't know. But something that can help you and might also help you get accepted. You never know. This is something that's crazy. Like the connections you can build with people is crazy how they can kick in later. I just recently had a stream where I said because I'm the type of person that you shouldn't burn your bridges. Don't burn your bridges. I totally adhere to that. When I finished my lab experience with the lab I worked at, where I just randomly cold called, volunteered, got experience in a lab that I loved the work. I just hated killing rats, and I could have complained and I could have left that place saying I'm never going to work with animals, so I don't need this experience. I didn't learn anything. I could have done that, but I didn't, right? I left on a good note, and I just tried to leave as best as I could. What happens is 2 years later they contact me and said, you put in enough work that we deemed appropriate that you should get authorship on one of the publications we're about to do. So because of that, and I didn't have to write a single word of the publication, but I am now a published author because I didn't burn my bridges, right? So and that's one of those experiences that I got on my off year. So I got a publication out of it. So it's kind of crazy how sometimes some connections can yield really interesting results down the line. And so something that I kind of thought of, that if you're on the line, if you're on the board, and this goes out to a lot of people, not just you, Lemon, here. If you're listening and you're like, I don't really know what to do, sometimes it helps to, like I was mentioning, I've cold called people. Sometimes it actually helps to talk to the professionals in the field. Just get a sense. Like you can cold call and be like, hey, it depends on who you're trying to cold call. I don't want to give this tip to cold call businesses and stuff like that. You're probably going to be shooed away because they don't have time. But a lot of times in universities, professors are very eager to chat with students. A lot of the professors I've dealt with, at least, are happy to chat with students, are happy to chat with people who are motivated themselves. Those motivate us. Like now, me being on the teaching side, when someone is self-motivated to learn, it's like, whoa, it's like professors really love talking to those students. And so if you're really into this, that's great. If you're not, talking to professionals can, like if you don't know, is what I'm saying. Talking to professionals can sometimes help you understand and can start to build some relationships. So maybe you live in a town where that's a university you want to attend. Um, maybe you can do a little bit of background research on some of the professors there. Now, I don't really know how it works in law. This is the problem here that I'm saying. There's a caveat to some of the things I'm saying, because here, what you're in grad school, what you're trying to achieve is get into a lab, right? And so that means that lab's already functioning. There's already a team, so you can begin to, you can ask to shadow a lab, right? You don't even have to ask to volunteer. That's another idea that I give students from time to time. Like maybe you don't have the time, maybe you don't have the resources to volunteer in a lab, but you can still ask the shadow. And what that means is you can go ask, be like, hey, can I just see your experiments for a day? I just want to get a sense. That's totally valid. I let people who don't work in my lab shadow my lab all the time. They can come in and work with my research assistants or with myself, and I can give them a conversation. I can give them a lab tour. I can explain, oh, you want to learn a little bit about MRI? Okay, I can show you. Okay, the MRI I don't show them. No. But you want to learn a little bit about the EEG? The MRI is a little bit a different story. You can't just let people go into the MRI room willy-nilly. That is way more control for very good reasons. There's a lot of safety precautions you have to take with an MRI because it's an incredibly powerful magnet. People can die around it. But the EEG chamber is way safer. So if I have students that are like, oh, you want to see an EEG? I can show you our EEG chamber, and I can bring them in. And so maybe that's something that you can kind of apply a similar logic to your situation that's off here. That might help you a little bit there too. So let me see. Let me catch up on the comments. So I've taken it twice, improved score by 4 points, but didn't really study for it. Yeah, I do not like killing bridges either. Other than law, I've thought about therapy and being a professor. Cool. Therapy, I'd have to get a different bachelor's. A professor, I could with a master's. Yeah. I mean, you could always do clinical therapy as a master's, and then you could do therapy. Like I don't think you necessarily have to do a complete different bachelor's to go into a master's degree for clinical therapy or clinical psychology. Um, but that's beside the point. If law is kind of your leading thing, then definitely work on that one, and then you never know where life's going to take you. I don't know. I just recommend keeping an open mind to things, but also continuing with your goals, right? You don't want to just have an open mind, meaning you're not going to make a decision ever, because not making a decision is going to mean you never make progress in any one thing. So, what I'm trying to say is it's good to have an open mind, right? You might find that through when you start law school, or I don't have you worked in law yet? Like, do you have experience? Because if you don't, then I'd heavily recommend just continuing, persevere, keep pushing until you get that experience. Because maybe you'll find that you don't like law, and so keeping an open mind, be like, will have your attitude instead of being like, oh, I'm a big failure, and be depressed and all down on yourself and do nothing. Having that open mind can allow you to say, okay, maybe I didn't like law, but I like therapy and I gained some experience in law. Like I got to learn something about myself, which is valuable. Like I'm not going to spend the rest of my life doing something I don't like, which is super valuable too. And so keeping that open mind can allow you to have that type of vision about what you're doing, right? But maybe you do really like it. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know all your passions, motivations about law, or if you've experienced it. But if you haven't experienced it, that's definitely a tip I can give now, or a suggestion, or a chatting point is. Yeah, exactly. So if you haven't really experienced what law is, because oftentimes we have these ideas of what things are, right? We see in Hollywood, we see in TV, in the media, or something, right? They show us professions. But what we got to remember, and it's not like I'm not saying Hollywood does this on purpose, right? They show us professions, but they're not showing us the complete story to professions because they simply can't. Even if they wanted to, they can't fit the life of a doctor, of a lawyer, or of a researcher into 30 minutes simply because it's one, it's not enough time. Two, it's not interesting. There's so much parts of our day that would not be fun to watch on TV, and so of course they're not going to see it. So putting yourself through the process, you get to see all the not all of them, but you get to see a lot of ins and outs of what you're trying to do, and doing that is super valuable. And the earlier you do it in your life, probably the better. Obviously, you can't have access to all these experiences at all times, but you can save yourself some time. So what I meant by that is I'm not in medical school, right? So I could have gone to medical school, found out that there's components that I don't like or I can't deal with, and then start my grad career. And so I would have done med school. Yeah, I can learn off topic. What does your shirt say? I'll show it in a second. This is actually related to my undergrad story of a little bit about perseverance. It says DeVille. Here, I'll put it out. I gotta give credit where credit is due. I like to give credit where credit is due. DeVille, they are a longboarding company. Now, I'm not trying to say I'm sponsored by. I'm not sponsored by them, but they were actually really supportive. Yeah, it's a longboarding company. Have you heard of them? DeVille Longboarding? They have this logo. Their logo's kind of cool, but maybe not so much anymore. But they have this logo. It's right here. That's their logo. If you've seen them around. Yeah, I love longboarding. They have a bomb as their logo because bombing hills. But maybe it's not in today's world not the best logo anymore. I don't think they use that logo anymore. But yeah, it's DeVille Longboarding. So, yeah, I like to wear their shirts a lot. Okay, okay. The reason, like, if you've heard of them, that's insane because they're a small, really small company. I know the owner personally because they're an incredibly small company in Arizona, and I just wish them the best because basically, um, at my university I attended, and I swear we'll get back to it, but I want to explain this a little bit because it actually relates to perseverance a little bit. Um, in my endeavors, right, to go to medical school, like I was mentioning throughout this stream, um, as a pre-med student, there's always pressure that you have to be doing all these extra things to be so competitive. And one of the things they say that you should be able to show on your CV and get experience with this is leadership positions. They want leaders. I don't know all of the reasons, or maybe I did the wrong research. I don't know. I can't speak. I don't know if medical schools actually want this, but that's what I had learned. I joined this pre-med honor society, and I was talking to doctors, and I was talking to people who had been accepted to medical school, and I was trying to gather as much information as possible of how to increase my likelihood, or like increase the probability I get accepted to medical school to the max. And so I got some tips like, oh, be a leader of something, lead something, be a project manager, join a research lab and lead a project, do this X, Y, or Z. And so one of the quickest way, based on my schedule, was what I was already involved in. So I was already in a research lab, but in that lab, the hierarchy of the lab was I was never going to be a leader because only grads would lead projects in that lab. So I couldn't lead there, but I was getting valuable experience, and I didn't want to quit because I was in the position where one in the hands were two in the bush, right? And so I was going to keep that because if you're interested in research, staying in a lab for multiple years is really worth it. And so once I got accepted into one, because I got rejected from several labs, right? They weren't accepting, they were full or something. But anyways, I was also working in a hospital, volunteering my time there, because also part of pre-med was you should show that you're caring to the community because they want doctors who care about people. So I volunteered my time in a hospital, and I know that's you can argue a lot of what's wrong with the system, but we're not here to argue this. Other things I heard was, get more professional experience. So that's part of the reason I joined in a lab and I joined a psychiatrist. Get your feet wet in a medical field. That way you can show that you're not going to shy away from medicine, that it is for you. And so I was with a psychiatrist for a little bit. So to get that leadership experience, the fastest way I could find to get it was, we'll start my own club. And there's so many clubs on my university at ASU. I went to Arizona State for my undergrad. There's so many clubs because it's a really big university. There's so many clubs, and I was already part of a lot of other clubs. And the one thing that I saw on my campus, because I also joined other clubs that weren't like professional. Like I joined a snowboarding club because I really like snowboarding. I really, really like snowboarding. And I also really liked longboarding, but the reason I longboarded was to get around campus, and I saw that so many people on our campus did the same thing. Like longboards were really useful, and our campus was big, and everything's concrete, and it's in the desert, and so it's really hot. So you just want to not be in the sun, you just want to get out as soon as possible. So longboards are really nice. And so I joined the snow. Yeah, we didn't get snow in Phoenix either, but there is snow in Flagstaff, 2 hours north of Phoenix. And so our club would literally plan trips where you would get in a bus at 5 in the morning or 4 in the morning and travel to the mountain and come back the same day, and you would just sleep on the bus basically. So I would do that, or I would get my own car and drive to the mountain and snowboard, and it would be fun. But anyway, so I was really enjoying my time in the longboard or um, the snowboarding club. And I was like, okay, well, I could probably start a club that I can have fun with because I didn't want to add more responsibility, more stress to my schedule. But at the same time, that also checks marks like a leadership position. And if I can do this well, I can actually, if I can get enough people, because when I saw how many people were in the snowboarding club, and there's no snow on my campus at all, and there are so many people are part of it, and I was like, if you can get that many people to rally, like to just come to events, you can mobilize them to probably do something very cool. And so what I thought was like, okay, and I saw a big hole in my campus, meaning there's no longboarding club, which made no sense. Like so many people there's probably more people at longboard than snowboard on my campus. So I started a longboarding club, and I got a lot of people to join because longboarding is huge on my campus, or it was. And so our club grew and grew and grew, and DeVille was a big part of it because DeVille, what I did as the president, as the founder here, is actually to get funding for my events and stuff. I had to go get money, and so I cold called stores, legit cold called. I went to them and I was like, hey, can I speak to a manager, please? And I just, I'm a student at a university nearby, and I'm actually starting a club. And I think if I could get sponsorship, you have access to this huge market, right? I can put your name on campus. Just if you can donate some boards to me, that's all I'm asking, because I'm just gonna give them away. All I wanted to do was raffles, and I was like, if you give me like a couple of free boards, I would swear I'll print your name. We're sponsored by you, and I'll get your name known on my campus. You'll have access to all these college students. And so I went to all these stores. I went to like big chain stores, and I went to small local business. I went everywhere trying to get as much funding as possible. Most businesses said no, but DeVille said yes. They helped me a lot. They gave me like a lot of product to be giving away, and hopefully in turn they did get business. I mean, they're still alive today, so hopefully in turn. I was just trying to seek that win-win situation. So I like to wear their shirts still this day because they were a huge help for my club. They kind of let me continue doing my things. I would provide huge speakers at our events to have like really cool music. They would provide ramps, because they would bring their own community, and they would help our events get bigger on our campus and attract more attention, because that was my purpose, right? I would make a lot of my events in the center of our campus on purpose because our events would be loud, and that would garner like so much attention. People around would look over and see how much fun we're having, having, and I would tell them, you don't even have to have a longboard to be part of Longboard Club. This is a social. Anyone can be part of this club. And then what I would do is I would take all these people, this big group of people, to show medical schools that this situation wasn't just about partying or whatever. I would be like, yo, you want to get this free longboard? Donate some food, some canned food. That's your raffle ticket. And then I would take that canned food and donate it to the local food bank. And so I would be doing these humanitarian things for med schools, right? And it also made me feel good. I'm not saying it was all just in interest to get into medical school, but it's like two birds with one stone. So anyway, long story there. Sorry for that, but that's why I wear this DeVille shirt. I still wear it till this day. I have multiple of their shirts because they're a really cool company, and I really like the boss. Or the owner. He was so chill. And I really, really hope that their business is still doing well. I hope they go national. Their boards were great. They were awesome. So anyway, let's go back to your topic. So some of the ideas that, I mean, it sounds like you're already working on, so that's already great. So, and I just want to put in your head, if you haven't already thought about it, cold calling is totally possible. Like you wanna understand a little bit law. Okay, let's just say you said you were trying to get as a paralegal or kind of intern at a law firm, right? What if they say no to you? Ask them, like, just an idea. I'm not saying you have to. Maybe you don't feel like it, and I'm not trying to encourage you to if you're uncomfortable doing it. But just to give you an idea of like sometimes we have these perceived limitations, we limit or perceived barriers, but those are only perceptual. They're not actually there. What happens? Okay, they say no to you interning, but what if I ask them, can I just shadow you for a day? What is that going to do? You get to show face. So the other reason why I like to say, can I just shadow you for a day? Is because you get to show face. At that point, people are more willing to work with you. They're more willing to do stuff for you because you're showing face. And it's harder for people to deny requests when you do things in person as well, provided you're being a nice person, of course. I'm not trying to show you all these ways to manipulate people. I'm not trying to say manipulate those around you. I'm trying to say take advantage of some psychological principles and the way humans work. Take advantage of it, think of them, and use them to your benefit, right? And we're social human beings. We do react differently to an email than it is to someone's face. That's just a universal truth. I'm not trying to say this so you can manipulate those around you. I'm saying, like, just as a reminder, the worst you can get is a no, and you can always ask again, right? They say no once, ask again in a month. Hey, just checking in. Do you have a position now? I'm really interested in this. Yeah, just shadow them. Like I'm just but open up. Like what can help you open these doors a little that help me is you say, I'm just a student seeing if I want to do this for the rest of my life. So I would be like, I'm a pre-med. So when I would volunteer to hospitals or at the psychiatrist, like, hey, I'm just a pre-med that wants to see if I want to do this for the rest of my life. I'm hoping to learn from this experience because I'm really interested in law. I would say I'm really interested in medicine. And I just want to see the day in the life. And sometimes that one shadowing would turn into, at the end of the day, they'd be like, yeah, if you want to maybe come back next week, we're doing this. And then you come back next week and you do it. And they, you know what? We do this on a monthly basis. You want to come once a month? And then it turns into your internship. Slowly, it just turns into your internship, even though it was never planned that way. That can happen. So I have a yes, I believe, just waiting on their law firm to get done with random. Oh, nice. There you go. So you're already on your way. But yeah, again, keep this in mind. I'm also saying this for the stream. I like having conversations because that way the rest of the stream can also hear this. Just as a reminder, right? Like in a lot of situations, I don't want to say that in all situations you should always ask. Like the worst you can get is a no. But in so many situations that seems to be the case, and the thing preventing us from asking is our own self-imposed limitations, like our own self-perceived barriers. Like, oh, if I ask, they're going to say no, and then they're going to hate me, and that's going to ruin my career. Like, no, they'll probably just say no, and they're not even thinking about you after that no. Like, they stop thinking about you because they just don't have the time of day. Like I get a lot of requests from students to join my lab all the time, and I have to say no to them, and they keep trying. And some of these students, to me, when they persevere with me, that actually only makes me more willing to talk to them a little bit because they're showing perseverance. Now, that's not going to work with absolutely everybody. Some people will say, man, you're annoying, but I really, from my experience, oh yeah, sorry, I didn't show you my Discord. Sorry, it's right there. It's on the Twitch. So here's the stream, right? If you just scroll down, unless you're on phone, but on my about page, there's the join us on Discord. But you already found it. So, but yeah, if you just click click the badge itself, you just have to click it. A bot will send you an invite. And also, just since I'm on this page right now, for the whole stream to just see, I have this Twitter account. You don't have to follow me on Twitter at all, but this is where I post the topic of the day that we're going to be talking about. In case you're wondering if I'm going to stream on a particular, if I'm going to miss a stream or something, I announce the streams beforehand. Even gaming streams, I'll stream in game. I even do that. So, like, for example, gaming stream tonight, going live at this time. I put that on the Twitter. That way, if you happen to be browsing my page, you can see if I'm going to stream or not that day. So that, and I purposely put this feed on here. That way you don't have to have Twitter. You don't have to download Twitter. You don't have to like me on Twitter. You don't have to do anything with Twitter. You can just do it on here. So anyway, yeah, we can talk in person or on voice chat as well if you want to do that. But that's cool that you already have a yes. So if you already have an intern lined up, you already have kind of your plan that you need to study for the LSAT. Sounds like you're developing a pretty solid plan to increase your likelihood of getting into law school. And so all I can think of right off the top of my head is like, yeah, if you're getting no's, you can think of ways to convert yes. Like, yeah, you might get a no from time to time, and that's the worst you can get. But there are even times where you can turn no's into yeses, like perseverance, right? That's today's topic. Like, again, it's not going to work 100% of the time, but sometimes it's going to work. So why not roll the dice? Especially if it doesn't cost you anything. Why not roll the dice? If it's not going to hurt anybody, roll the dice. Anyways, Taco Tuesday, talking about perseverance. I'm going to try to keep thinking about more things for law, because I've never really put my head on it, but this is what I'm saying. Like the similarities, like some of the things that I've done or that others have done around me to, get into a school, to get into a job, because some of these ideas also apply. Some of this logic also applies to getting a job, to getting into a club, to getting into a sport, right? People are people. Everyone and anyone in any organization, anyone in history has been a person. That's something that I sometimes would forget as an undergrad. I would sometimes set up my heroes or set up professors on these pedestals and treat them like godlike, that they're infallible, like that they can't be susceptible to biases, to what's it called? Like heuristics, mental shortcuts, that they don't have weaknesses, that they're always right. No, they're humans too. And after understanding the brain and studying the brain a little bit, studying human psychology and human behavior, both at the biological level and at the psychological level, and also seeing professors and interacting with professors, and actually sometimes even testing out the very theories they teach on them, like, do they commit this type of bias error, this cognitive error? Sometimes you see it come out of them. It makes you really realize how human they are. And so when you realize that, I feel like that also gives you empowers you to ask for things a little bit more. So did you graduate yet, or how much more do you have to your PhD? I have like about a year left, and I'm done. The pandemic put a delay on that, on finishing up my PhD, because our lab closed for almost like 2 years. I couldn't do anything lab related. Obviously, like, I still kept teaching. I would take courses and stuff in grad school, but I couldn't do research, and so that delayed my dissertation, which in turn delays my graduation, because my dissertation is research, right? You're doing research for your dissertation, so I couldn't do research for about almost 2 years. Otherwise, I would have been my projected graduation year was this year. Yep, it was this year. But now I'm graduating next year. Right, because I started 2017. I started my PhD. So what is your research? So I'm at the intersection. So my research is, how do I put it? So I'm at the intersection of biology and psychology. My degree is in social psychology, but my lab and like the science I practice and I'm trained in is called social neuroscience. And so that's basically like I said, we're combining psychology and biology. And so we're trying to, at least my goal here is to understand human behavior and the brain, like the human brain, to understand it at the biological level and at the psychological level. Because as I said in the stream, I've mentioned that I have my degree in biology and have my degree in psychology, and that experience showed me something interesting of science, within science, that also led me to where I am now, is having that experience of having these two separate fields. What I saw is they don't communicate, at least where I was, they didn't communicate too much to each other. What I mean by that is biology was really interesting to understand the cells and understand the neurotransmitters and understand the neurochemistry of the brain. But what it really didn't take into account for you to be able to understand the brain and humans and human behavior, it didn't really teach you much about context. Now, again, I was at the undergrad level. Of course, they can't teach us everything. It's impossible. Like you can't. You're gonna get the more um, like fundamental theories. You're not gonna get like all the intricacies of what you're studying. You're not gonna get that at the undergrad. That's impossible. But nonetheless, there still seems to be very little conversation, very little communication. And I actually just had a Science Friday this past Friday on how science communicated, and there seemed to be very little communication between my two departments, my like the department I belong to, psychology, and the department I belong to, biology. And I saw that's kind of problematic because a lot of the questions biologists and psychologists would try to address actually overlap. They're actually super related. That if they talk to each other, they could probably answer the questions a lot faster. And so again, biology was really much, especially biology I was taking, was really much interested in cells, how cells work, cellular biology, cellular mechanics, the chemistry of cells, biochemistry, all of that. In psychology, a lot of the courses were interested in behavior, but rarely would talk about what's going on in here, right? They would say, oh yeah, humans have these tendencies, humans blah 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 blah. And again, it's not because they didn't want to, or maybe some of them don't want to, but also there's just no time. But something, no, not even a brief mention of like, we should also take into account that each person's brain has a different neurochemistry. So even though these are the generalities in social psychology, just remember that the neurochemistry, blah 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 blah. And so, what is your publication you have? I'll bring that up in just a second. So basically, my science is at that crux. Like we're taking in theory from both biology and psychology, so we can understand the brain and the mind. So the publication I have is the topic is on stress and memory. So the title of the publication, I think I actually have it here in front of me. I can read the title here. Hold on, let me see if I can. So the title of the paper is Chronic Unpredictable Intermittent Restraint Stress Disrupts Spatial Memory in Male but Not Female Rats. So basically, to kind of translate that into lay terms, or into like English, if you will, what this this is my neurobehavioral science lab that I was mentioning, that they like called me 2 years later after I had already been accepted to a different graduate school and didn't really have much to do with their lab anymore. They called me like, hey, we feel like you did enough work on this project that you deserve, that you merit an authorship. And that's pretty big, especially when you're an undergrad. Like when you're an undergrad, you rarely get authorship on a publication. Like that doesn't really happen. Like you get acknowledgement, of course. Like I acknowledge my RAs, my research assistants. I acknowledge them, but usually as the grad student or as the person publishing, you've done so much of the work. Like you had to you had to do all the literature. Okay, sometimes your research assistants can help you, but just to give you an idea, like you do a literature review, you have to design the experiment, run the experiment, collect the data, clean the data, analyze the data, and then write up your whole, like interpret the data and do the whole write up. And so of course your RAs are helping you along the way, but most of that is you. And so oftentimes, or if other people wrote portions, then they get to be part of the authorship as well. And so basically the lab I worked in was interested in stress and memory. And so here what we were finding, we were having this issue in the lab where we were trying to elicit chronic stress symptoms in rats, and it was just so hard in female rats. Like they weren't developing anhedonia, or they weren't developing other depressive symptoms that chronic stress usually leads to. And so we're like, what is happening? And so you take male rats compared to female rats, and you have different effects when it came to this intermittent stress, restraint stress, so this chronic unpredictable stress. So we'd stress them in an unpredictable way. So some days they would be stressed, other days they wouldn't. So it'd be unpredictable, and it seemed to really affect male rats, but not female rats. And there's explanations as to why, but that's basically the tenet of that. All right, I was supposed to have my own publication in August. Nice. Oh yeah, because law also gets publications, right? In August, but haven't heard back about my application or editors, even though I was told one of my editors prior to applying is the award I want. Nice. That's really good. Holy cow. I contacted everyone I could, even the president of the committee. Okay, well, again, perseverance. I'm just going to keep trying to push this word, persevere. Like, if you think you're going to get that publication, keep knocking on doors and try to get it. I think that can be huge for your acceptance into law school. Into a lot of, even like, let's just say, in the worst case scenario, you never get accepted to law school, having things like this on your CV will open other doors, like for sure. Like you keep persevering in these types of things, and it's gonna keep opening doors. Like having that type of stuff on your CV is pretty good as well. Is really good, I should say. That's really cool. It was for a GPSA journal. I haven't heard of that journal, but awesome and congrats. Hopefully it does get published. That would be pretty big. That'd be cool. Um, Political Science Association. Okay, cool. Yeah, I think that would be a huge help, of course. Um, nice. Yeah, I think that could be a pretty big help. Dang. Yeah, congrats then. It's a pretty big accomplishment. Statewide is pretty big. States, if you're a foreign listener here, a foreign follower here, and you've never been to the U.S., some of the states here, some are quite small, but some are huge. They're huge, and the populations are huge, and so it could be, wow, really nice. Yeah, that's really good. Glad to hear it. Congrats. So in this year off, I think if you can get that internship, right, in this year that you're in between, improve your LSAT score and get that publication and put. And by the way, for law school, do you need a CV? I think you do, right? For like a lot of things, I have like the hiccups randomly. For a lot of things, you'll probably need a CV, curriculum vitae, right? And so these are things that you should definitely be recording and putting on your CV. Yeah, like definitely be putting it on your CV. Put these things that will help you get more opportunities, like for sure. Like when you cold call, part of the strategy there, you can do this right when you cold call, or maybe like in a follow-up email. But you can also provide your CV for them to give them a reason to give you the chance, right? To give you the chance to intern, to give you the chance to shadow, right? You say, like, I'm interested in law. Here's a little bit about me. Here's my CV. If you need it, like, if you need my CV, here it is. And on the CV, they can read, wow, they got this. Okay, cool. Awesome. I'm glad you're on top of that. Because so many people I meet, so many people I teach don't have CVs. And I mean, that's fine. It's normal. But I just really recommend the sooner you start your CV, the better. Like, even if you're in high school, like middle school, I don't know, like, if you already have some experience, but it's so you don't forget. That's the reason. You have this living document. It's literally what it means. You're living life, or you're running life. The CV, that's literally what it means, running life. And so it's a log of your professional life, and of course you want to keep it, and you want to update it, of course. So yeah, when you do your cold calls, sometimes it can be helpful if it's like a very professional, very like not professional. What do you want to call it? Professional is like a good word to use, but like in labs, a very like academic-y lab, so I don't know what to call it for law, but like a very professional lab, you send your CV because it tends to be the norm from applicants, from people interested in working there. It tends to be a norm to like attach your CV in the cold call. I get it all the time when undergrads want to apply to work in my lab. A lot of emails come without CVs. Some of them come with CVs. From my perspective, like I do like it when they have the CV there versus not. Law firm, yeah, yeah, the law firm. I guess, yeah. So a lot of law firms are probably gonna be used to having like CVs attached. I mean, just as like a heads up, but you might want to consider doing that when you're cold calling if you haven't already. If you have already, sounds like you're already doing a lot of what I would recommend it, or what I at least would have thought of. So that's awesome that you're already doing that. But yeah, just as a reminder, and maybe you've already thought about these things, but yeah, you just remember you can think outside the box. Try to knock on doors that you didn't think you could or should. Maybe maybe there are some doors that you shouldn't. I don't know you personally, but knocking on doors is a valid strategy. Wow, my English is starting to escape me. Yeah, cold calling is a valid strategy, and I definitely applied that one and have experienced some success with it. Sweet. So we're at the 2 hours and 20-minute mark. This usually goes for about an hour to an hour and a half. And it's starting to be dinner time for me, so I'm going to start to wind down the stream here a little bit. But Lemon, if you want to keep chatting, I'm happy to chat. Offline, we can chat as well. We can also chat in future streams if you want to keep asking questions. I'm sorry I don't have like super pinpoint advice. Obviously, I can give people like a lot of more individualized step-by-step advice if you're interested in grad school or going from high school to universities, because that's more general. But going from university to law school, obviously, I don't have that experience. I can only talk about medical or grad school since that's the only experience I've gotten. I'm gonna keep trying to think of other things that other people might have come across. Maybe I can even contact if you want. I don't think I actually have any current friends that are in law school anymore. I was gonna say I used to work with someone doing a JD PhD, so that's like you're doing research. You're a research lawyer. So that was interesting. I was gonna say I can probably reach out to people who've done law if you have any specific questions. It's always really nice to have allies. Really, really nice to have allies that are either already in law school or already lawyers. Super nice. So if you have one, awesome. If you don't, try to foster one through try to like create an ally. Because do you need letters of recommendation as well? Because that's another thing that I also like to say for grad school, med school, you're going to need letters of rec. And how do you get them and how do you get good ones? Well, you want diverse ones, and one of the ways you get diverse ones is by going to do internships, by shadowing, by volunteering, right? And so you want to foster that relationship with the person, that ally, and then they'll be your letter writer. And so as an ally, they can be a very strong letter writer. But anyways, I'm gonna try to think of other tips that are generalities because yeah, I can't give any any really fine focused tips there. But I'll try to think of other. If I come up with any more, I will definitely hit you up. I have some, but also hoping to receive a diverse one from an intern. Exactly, yeah. Because at least the logic for us, or the tip we were given, was try to get one letter recommendation from like a classroom, like that way for grad school. Try to get like a letter recommendation from a professor that we can show you're a good student. Letter recommendation from a lab that you worked at the university, and a letter recommendation from someone outside the university, like a job or a volunteer position. So we're trying to get that diversity in our letters of recommendation. When I applied to medical schools and grad schools nowadays, for certain things, it's not good to go diverse, but for like acceptance things where you're trying with the diversity we're trying to show is that all these independent sources, they're all independent of each other, are all agreeing, they all have a consensus that you are a great student, that you are X, Y, or Z, right? And so it helps convince the committee that much more. But yeah, anyways, yeah, hit me up whenever you need it. Obviously, we float in the same Discords anyway, so we can always chat there too. We can chat in future streams. Again, chat offline. And again, I'm gonna try to if anything comes across, I'll hit you up on Discord. Say like, oh yeah, this just like I remember like this is another thing that that helped me. Maybe it can help you in your situation. But it already sounds like you're doing a lot of the right paths. Prioritize your steps, of course. That's important, so you can prioritize your time. Um, and also remember to enjoy this time too, to balance your life. That's something that I got burnt out as an undergrad. I don't regret it. I don't have any regrets. I got burnt out, and so yeah, I underwent some stressors that I probably didn't have to. I probably could have enjoyed some parts of my undergrad degree, but I don't regret it. I went to Germany afterwards because I was so burnt out and got to live an amazing experience. So that's why I don't regret my burnout, because I was fortunate to then have like the opposite side of the burnout. I went and chilled. But yeah, just remember to also take care of your mental health, because if you're gonna burn out, then if you can't be successful in law school, just remember that your mental health is also a priority. We should keep that in mind. Just had a Taco Tuesday. Last Taco Tuesday was on mental health, the basics. We talked a little bit about how sleep, water, breathing, exercise, sunlight, and something else, they all are playing and they all are related neurochemically, biochemically speaking, and psychologically speaking, related to our mental health. And so remember that if your mental health is taking a hit, well, so will your studies, so will your performance on tests, so will your social relationships, right? If you have a healthy mental health, right, or that type of thing, then those other things are more likely to improve. And so also I just want to remind you that as you're going after your endeavors, which you're going to face difficulties, and hopefully just to end this stream with the perseverance there, as you're persevering through this, also keep in mind your mental health. And also, yeah, just remember that is a very important component, and we shouldn't sacrifice our health entirely for certain goals. because then you can't even enjoy it if you really went down, like health-wise, and you can't really enjoy whatever goal it is that you're trying to get. So enjoy this time, relax. Yeah, I can join voice chat. Cool. Yeah, enjoy. And to everyone else, thank you so much for stopping by. This has been a great Taco Tuesday. Thank you, Lemon, for providing a lot of the conversation today. Thanks also, SPS, for providing some the conversation and for listening in. I really appreciate it. It doesn't matter. We can do either. Obviously I'm gonna go heat up my food and everything, so I'll join in a little bit. All right. It'll take me just a little bit of time, but I'll be there, and we can continue chatting. And I'll just see if you're in the 5 a.m. I'll join the 5 a.m. one. If you're in the Shark Party Discord, I'll join the Shark Party Discord. Cool. So yeah, thanks everybody for joining. And again, Mimi, thank you for following me. I don't know if you're still with me, but thanks for the follow. Appreciate it. And I hope to see everybody in future streams. Gaming streams are finally becoming more frequent. So I also want to invite everyone, if I'm gaming, we can still have these conversations. We don't have to talk about games. That's actually why I stream my gaming, is that if we want to have this conversation, because I can't just do a Taco Tuesday. Oh, thank you so much, Lemon. I really appreciate the sub. You really don't have to do this. I don't expect it, but thanks for the support. I really appreciate it. But again, it's never expected. I'm super happy to be doing this as completely, like, I don't expect any return at all. This is fun for me. And I just want to say that during gaming streams as well, I'm happy to talk about any topic from Taco Tuesdays or Science Fridays or anything personal if you want to just chat about things. I will put down the controller and chat with you. That's what I did my last Black Desert stream. I stopped. I didn't even start grinding. I was about to start grinding, didn't start grinding, started talking to somebody that was interested in going to a graduate school. And so I just put down the controls and chatted for a while and then picked them back up. And I can chat and grind at the same time. The intention of the gaming streams is to have the fun environment, but we can also have the opportunity to talk about anything we want to. So just remember that even though I might be gaming, we can chat about anything. But also, as a reminder, I'll put this back up. The schedule is here, right? The 2 fixed days that I stream are Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard or Pacific Daylight, PDT, whatever we're on now. I guess I have to edit this now. Whatever we're on, but it's at 6 p.m. Pacific time. And for Science Fridays, where we're a little bit more science focused, less about anecdotal evidence, as I mentioned at the beginning of the stream. Those are every Friday at 5 p.m. Pacific time. And gaming streams are still random because each week my schedule is different. Like it's a little, it can be hectic at times. And so I can't guarantee you all more than 2 streams a week because it's just beyond me. Like it might be some weeks it's just too much on my plate as a graduate student, just way too much on my plate. And so some weeks I just can't guarantee the gaming streams, but to me what's important to me are the Taco Tuesdays and Science Fridays. So those ones I try to guarantee. I still can't guarantee it. That's what the Twitch is for, where some streams I'll have to say like I'm sick right here, I'm sick, I won't be able to stream, I'm sorry. So that's how you can find out if I'll streaming the 2 days for sure. And the other thing just to mention, if you're interested in the Discord, again, on the About page, just clicking the Discord link there will get you to the Discord community there that we're currently working on building as well. And another thing I just want to mention, I'm sorry, these aren't plugs, these are just to make you all aware that these things exist. If you are interested in a previous topic that we've talked about on this channel, I do have a YouTube channel. Again, don't have to follow me, but it's just there as an archive since Twitch deletes my videos after like a week or something. I do keep Science Fridays and Taco Tuesdays. You can even see my old template that I used to use, and it's been updated since then. I'm still using it now. Right? I have different topics, right? How do you cope with stress? Statistics. We had a chat about statistics, social identity, bias, sleep. Why do we sleep? Neurochemistry. We talked about neuroscience. We talked about epigenetics. That's a really fun one. I'll probably have to redo that one as well. Cognitive dissonance. So talk about neuroscience, talk about psychology, talk about other things. This is all here on YouTube. Again, don't have to like, you don't have to subscribe. I'm not asking for that. I'm just saying that it's there in case, because on this channel, these videos will be deleted after a while. So if you wanted to hear them podcast style later, you're more than welcome to the YouTube channel. It's there under the same name, right? Shark Party GG with the same logo. So that's all. I just wanted to just remind the stream of those things before I sign off. Just remember, we have the Discord if you want to join it. Taco Tuesday, Science Fridays are the fixed days. Gaming streams are back now that my computer can actually stream and run games at the same time. So tune into any of those. Again, thank you everybody for being with me tonight. And I guess the last little thing here about perseverance is here's another example of perseverance is this channel. I'm going to continue. Awesome. I'll hit you up on Discord. So I'm going to continue to persevere with this channel as well. This channel has gone through dead phases, live phases, and that's what I'm just going to keep doing. The same way I do other things in life, I'm just going to keep pushing it. And although it might be a slow push, right, there's so many things I want to do to improve this channel. Although I want to, I'm just going to slowly do it, and we're going to persevere, all right? So hopefully you all can continue persevering in your endeavors, and you can be eventually successful, but do expect failure on the way. We all encounter failure. It's a very normal phenomenon, and if you didn't encounter failure, that would be kind of weird, and it'd be quite hard to become a master of things because you need to understand whatever you're trying to master, it's also important to understand what it's not, what doesn't cause it, what it isn't, right? That's how you can really master something. Or that when you reach that level of knowledge is when you begin to reach that level of mastery. So persevere out there, everybody. Persevere. Hopefully this has been a good Taco Tuesday for you all. Thanks again. This has been a great Taco Tuesday. I am Shark, your host, PhD student, almost done. Persevering, hanging in there. So persevere, everybody. I will see you in future streams. Maybe a gaming stream. I don't know if tonight, maybe. Maybe a gaming stream before Friday, but for sure, I will see you all on Friday for Science Friday. Topic has not been chosen. I'm open to suggestions. You can put suggestions in the Discord channel. All right, persevere on with everything, everybody. Wow, that was a weird sentence. I'm not going to sign off without. Everyone continue persevering with your endeavors, and I hope and I wish you success. There we go. Have a good night, everybody. Goodbye.